We'll ask if involvement of the government in Kenyan events in the US adds any value or hurts them. We'll also review this week's headlines, including the death of Kenya's military chief, General Francis Ogolla, following a tragic helicopter crash. Please start dropping comments below on your thoughts. Na bila kusahau, tunapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari, mleta habari DJ Moshfire, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Asichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now this hour we'll be talking to Bostonian Wanjeri Indefatigable about last week's Boston Marathon's Dinner with Champions. She'll tell us if this is the new benchmark reshaping the landscape of Kenyan reunions in the US. Wanjeri will also reveal a job she had back in the day in which she might have been the first Kenyan woman in that field. So you want to stay tuned for that. Now drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuned in from. I'm your host and producer Ali Badawi. It's Friday the 19th of April, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow us, follow the OneMic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now on TikTok. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. OneMic Kamakawa. We have our sports anchor Mika Och will be joining us via Zoom, and our resident DJ Moshfa is already live on the decks. And not forgetting that super producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio. And I want to, welcome all the listeners who are already tuned in. I can see Sleo Dwar, yuko ndani ya building pale Kamakawa, akiita watu hapa na pale. Udi Madhenge says he's just dealing with ATL weather. Mvua and Jua on the same day, but I'm hoping for opinions on this topic. Reunions are how we can help each other. I can also see Stephen Kamani Kari is also in the building. Ruth Kilungu is also there. Esther Mulusa, Karibu Sana. And a lot of people already are still tuning in. Slay is asking Mika, how are you? Glad to be here. Now, Mika Och is also already in the building. We're a bit late today, so we are going to get started right on. Now, as you already know, the rhythm of Kenyan reunions, once a mainstay of diaspora life in the US, seems to falter after the COVID pandemic. Now, from Atlanta Thanksgiving to the famous Dallas Memorial Weekend, then we had the sizzling Labor of Love in DC, and also not forgetting the legend of Las Vegas Rugby Sevens. Now, starting a few years back, however, Kenyans in Boston have been hosting elite Kenyan marathoners in a grand fiesta still unknown to many outside Boston. Now, last week, the OneMic Show crew made its way via road and via air to the great city of Boston to attend this grand event, an event that precedes the Boston Marathon. We were welcomed to the city by the most indefatigable Bostonian, Miss Wanjeri, who treated us to a sumptuous breakfast, which she had promised getting us off to a good start. Now, Miss Wanjeri, an avid photographer and a traveler extraordinaire, is joining us tonight from the city of Boston to recap the just concluded Dinner with Champions. Now, of note about Miss Wanjeri is that she hates microwaves and just bought her first one 2 weeks ago to get her friends off her back. She will also ignore anyone who addresses her by her government names. And if that's not enough, Miss Wanjeri still uses paper maps and hates using GPS while driving. But with all that said, she's here tonight to tell us if the Boston Marathon Dinner is the new benchmark, reshaping the landscape of Kenyan reunions in the US, or if this is going to be the new thing, like when we think Kenyan reunions. And without much further ado, Wanjeri, we want to welcome you. Karibu sana to the OneMic Show. Wanjeri, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Oh, good evening, loud and clear. Thank you so much. Now, before we get started, Wanjeri, I want to welcome you again. And I can understand your dislike for microwaves, but why are you still using paper maps and not GPS, Wanjeri?
Because there's so many distracted drivers on the road. Mm-hmm. I've been in cars with friends who are following GPS and they have no sense of direction of mm-hmm. where they're going. So if there is construction or if there's a detour or you keep going in circles because you don't have a sense of direction. So I think GPS has taken away that ability of people to have an idea. Am I going south? Am I going north? Am I lost? I've been in cars with friends where the GPS is just taking them in circles. and they actually have no idea how to get out of it, right? And we've seen cases. There's an interesting case a few years ago in Colorado where like 50 cars followed each other into a very dangerous road, and all of them were following GPS, right? And to me, I'm like, okay, when you get used to GPS, there's a sense of direction that you lose. And so you're not able to tell instinctively, I'm lost. So when I learned to drive with a map, you can actually tell when you're getting lost, right? You can tell I've gone too far, or I need to turn around, or I think I missed the street. So that's why I have a very love-hate relationship with GPS.
Okay, all right, good.
The last time we used the GPS.
It seems the classes you took in GHC, ile map section where you're supposed to locate a cattle dip and the chief's office. I'm sure you used to score 10 out of 10. Now, we had our own issues with GPS while going to Boston, while in Boston, and while coming back. Mika, karibu sana to the OneMic Show. Please talk to us.
We had an issue with a living GPS, a talking GPS.
Tell us, Mika, tell us about that issue. Tell us about that GPS issue that we had, because it's very interesting that Wanjeri is talking about paper maps, and we had issues with the GPS while we were in the city of Boston. Maybe talk to us, Mika, a little bit about it as unasalimia wasikilizaji. Mika, twende kazi.
Mika, kuna vitu zingine za closet usitoe.
Mika, twende kazi.
Hello listeners, wasikilizaji na watangaziaji. Wanaitwaje? Wachangiaji. How are you?
Wapenzi wachangiaji.
Wapenzi wachangiaji. It's another wonderful Friday, and thank you for joining us. Now, as the folks have said, we went to Boston last weekend, shenanigans. So on Friday after that dinner, there was a continuation for the after dinner. Was it on Saturday? And it was in a town called Lowell. Amarowo.
And what happened in Lowell?
So we went to Lowell and we had fun. DJ Foreign and Husky really gave us some good tunes to party. And then when we were going home, our GPS decided to input the address and the road of where we were going. It's only that the GPS took us to another city 30 minutes away. When we reached there, we were staring at this huge mansion. And then now I had to come in and talk to the GPS that Wanjeri doesn't like. And that GPS that Wanjeri doesn't like took us back to our hotel. So we also had an issue with the talking, living GPS, but it's okay. At least we got safe. We managed to. It was a nightly drive, but I think OneMic uliona kitu yote, tuliona tu highways, ndio. At least tunaweza sema tulitembea Boston.
Kulikuwa na view, muliona manyumba, and you got to understand that there is a place in Massachusetts called Hudson.
Here's the key question: who was driving?
Wanjeri.
Well, I wasn't.
Please.
Oh, and by the way, before we even go there, let us just say that somebody was supposed to join us, and that person decided, had said that
they were
person
going to change their shoes.
They were going to change shoes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they will
join us.
They will join us.
Walirudi na party.
Bado tunangoja.
We're still waiting.
Yes, we are still waiting.
Sawa. So some GPS issues, and to make the driver actually in that situation where instead of going to Woburn where we were, he went to another city called Hudson, which was some half an hour, 40 minutes away. But people got to see a new city. But
I think if that day even had ADC maps at that point, ingekuwa Arab. Because Gina ilikuwa same.
Yeah.
Ilikuwa same road.
So it was the same road.
Same road.
2 Forbes Lane. But in a different city.
Yes.
Hapana, mtu alisoma tu Forbes Lane akafinya. Hakusoma nini zote. Alikuwa na haraka.
Okay. Akiendaga.
Haraka.
Okay.
Haina baraka.
Aya, sawa. Okay, those are just some experiences with GPS in Boston. We're going to go back to Wanjeri. Now, before we get started, Wanjeri, you have an issue, like some people are asking if Indefatigable is your real name, because that's a name that's known. It's a unique name. So some people want to know, is Indefatigable your real name? And if not, what does Indefatigable mean? How do you say Indefatigable in Kiswahili? Wanjeri.
I think that I've actually never looked up what is indefatigable in Kiswahili, but I think it is mtu ambaye hachoki. Or, you know.
You're close.
I think so. I mean, it's somebody who is very
relentless,
who does not get tired. So they're persistent in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started using that name when I was about 12 years old.
Wow.
So when I was growing up, I had a lot of pen pals from all over the country and all over the world. And that is actually how I started traveling, because I had so many pen pals when I was growing up. And so I had this pen pal from, I think it was Finland or Norway. And we would, so I would send her pictures where we are doing very crazy things in Moranga, like you're chasing chickens or you are farming. So to her, it was a very different, imagine at that age, this girl is sending me pictures of her riding a horse and skiing and all those things. And I'm sending her pictures of, the rabbits we are rearing at home and stuff. So she actually called me "You're very indefatigable," because I would always send her pictures when I'm actually doing stuff at home. And the name, I kind of just took on the name and used it throughout, and I've just never dropped it. So it's not an official name,
Okay.
but I use it on these streets, basically.
So you're saying you have a name that you're not going to reveal, like Maureen or Joyce or Elizabeth
or Adhiambo.
Yeah, that you're not going to reveal. Is that correct?
I just don't like the name.
Okay.
And I actually found out my cousins don't like the name, because that woman in the Bible that we are named after was a very mean woman.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay?
so hint, a mean woman in the Bible.
Sounds like Ruth.
Hint. I'm going to...
She was a very mean woman in the Bible, and I feel like, and I know like our grandparents were given those names, they picked those names when the missionaries came. But for me, I have just never liked my English name. I don't go by it even at work. If you call me by my first name is Penina, right? But if anybody calls me by that name, I know for a fact they don't know me. They probably saw my name somewhere on an official record, maybe at school or something, but I know for a fact that is somebody who does not know me very well. If somebody even texts me and tells me, "Oh, Penina, we have a fundraiser," I know I don't have to contribute to that fundraiser. They don't know me. They don't know who they are reaching out to. But that's just the reason why I hate my name. And actually, I found that my cousins who also have the same name, they don't like to use it. So clearly, I'm not alone. And I think I'll change that name at some point.
Okay, Penny. Sorry, Indefatigable.
Yes.
Now, like when you said a mean woman in the Bible, Omosh was here mumbling Ruth. So I don't remember the story of Ruth in the Bible, but the first woman that came to my mind was Delilah. So I was thinking...
that one is not mean. That one was just plain out evil.
Delilah wasn't mean.
Yeah. what do you mean?
She was just conniving. She wasn't mean.
Okay. Okay.
Jezebel was mean.
And
Okay.
Penina was, her co-wife, right? They were married to the same woman. So the other lady could not get kids, and she was very mean-spirited. So, I mean, I don't think I'm anything like her. And my grandmother was not anything like her. That's why I just don't like the name. And I've never actually gone, even when I was in primary school, in high school, I've never gone by my English name. I've always gone by Wanjeri. Even at work, professionally, people know me as Wanjeri.
Okay.
And I make sure they call me by that name.
Okay, sawa.
So does that mean you like Hannah's or you don't like Hannah's? Just checking.
I'm
at a stage where I actually don't like English names, period. Right? Like, I feel like we should go by our African names.
My name.
Okay.
Sawa. I have a very nice
we are gonna have an episode about these
going by
African
English
names.
or non-English names.
Yes. A couple of comments here that have been coming in while we were talking. I can see. Let me see. Ruth Anasema, I'm working on a report, and I just typed MapQuest. I think this was in reference to the GPS conversation that we were having.
Yes.
And I also want to welcome Chenjerian Onyango Hingo in the building. Onyango karibu sana. And then Slay here says, Vile Omosh anacheka, something must have went down. Okay, and we're going to find out if something went down.
Slay, I was see me behind the tent.
And then Udi Anasema, I use GPS and a map, and my kids hated me reading. And then Slay anasema, choma please, nitaongeza mafuta. Then here, Esther Mulusa, all the way from North Carolina, Nasema, all men I have ridden with cannot stand the female voice of the GPS. It drives them up the wall. I don't know why. Now, I've never tried a female voice on a GPS, so I'm going to try it out to test.
So your
GPS has bass?
No, my GPS has, I don't know, the default voice on my GPS, is it male or female, or is it neutral?
No, mine is female.
It's not gender neutral.
Okay. Now Esther got me thinking. I think my GPS has a female voice. The default voice,
yes,
yeah, Google Maps is female.
It is female, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know, and Esther says all the men she has ridden with cannot stand that female voice. So
she's been riding with the wrong man.
You you need to.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Why would you have the GPS and also have the voice? That's another thing that never makes sense to me.
Well,
the voice is what okay, so the GPS gives you direction. The voice kind of gives you the reminders.
So I'll tell you something. I know you say that there's but you don't use GPS. But if you've been in jobs where you're driving for long periods of time, trust me, that voice does a lot. Because you don't constantly have your eye on the GPS. So when you're close to 1 mile
or to an exit, it prompts you. It will trigger you and tell you, you're coming up in this, or if in 2 lights passes light, and then at next light you'll make a right. So that's the voice we're talking about.
Yeah, and then yes, and also alerts like speed drop ahead. Those are very important. They save you a lot of money. Your paper maps, Wanjeri, unfortunately,
I don't speed, so I don't need those.
Your paper maps are not gonna save you from a speed trap. Now Ruth here says, but to be fair, Boston roads are not built to be understood.
No, they're not. When that exit comes, when you see the exit, that's the exit.
Yeah.
So if you don't use the exit when that sign is there with the exit, you shall exit at where there is no exit.
And then Rasvik anasema mulikuwa walevi. Udi says, surely, use 3 GPS as your car, your phone, and a map. And then Ruth has a change of heart, and she's saying, oh my goodness, how did y'all end up in Hudson from Warburn? Ask DJ
Ruth, why are you asking questions of police? Kwani siku hizo umekuwa polisi?
Yeah. And then Esther Mulusa says, Haki, you guys have the best jobs at OneMic. When do you ever work? That's a very good question, which we are going to answer later. And then Slay says, or rather, Adis says, you all sound like you are headed to Lagos and found yourselves in Abuja. something like that.
We went to Accra.
Yeah. And I also want to welcome Michael Peps Wanjala, Exchangerian, Karibu Sana. I want to welcome Nginda. Your seat is still here. We're waiting for you. I'm going to call out Uno Mike. You're supposed to be scheduling a date for you guys to come to the show. I'm sure he hasn't, but that's a story behind the tent another day. Doreen Florence, Karibu Sana. And then let me see what else we have here. This says, if the show was live or would have assumed Bado were Konjiani identifying as Nigerian Kenyans. In other news, the Chinese win was revoked. Denny imerudi kwa books. I think this is in reference to
those guys.
That Chinese who beat
the ones.
If they would have let it stand, they would have looked bad.
The ones who are what did they call themselves? Pesetas.
Yes, pesetas.
With bibs.
One of them said, I didn't even know why they had my name on
I didn't know I had a bib.
Yeah, I didn't know I had a bib.
Because my name is Habib. So CLAV.
Hey, Kenyans are very serious when it comes to this issue.
So do you think there was a brown envelope that was passed, or there was a couple of brown envelopes?
Oh no, I think there was definitely some brown envelopes, because those guys were insisting, they were running very slow. The Chinese guy was panting for his breath,
huffing and puffing.
But these guys were like Peter, because these guys were not trying to mess their bag. They were trying to secure the bag. So they're telling
So they had not gotten the bag prior to the race?
No, they're not gotten I think they gotten part of the bag prior to the race. So they wanted to secure the rest of the bag. And then the giveaway was this guy telling the Chinese guy to Peter. And then upon winning, badala mjifanya yani you're sad not to win. Those guys were so enthusiastic.
See, the bag came in.
Congratulating the Chinese that
the bag came in. The bag came in.
So yani that
I don't think they'll be going back to China, are they?
I don't think those guys will be going back to China. Anyway, back to the comments. Esther says those names are actually biblical Jewish names. Very interesting. And then let me see. Ruth says the default voice in most GPSs is mostly female. Slay says, for those who cannot look at the GPS as they drive. And I think that's using the voice. And then namwambia Mika hiyo ni Waze. Now actually Google Maps nowadays, Google Alphabet bought Waze. So now Google has features of Waze, including the speed traps and all that stuff.
Even Apple Maps has got that speed check ahead.
Okay. And then
pretty much the maps now seem to have it.
Tabitha Njeri, karibu sana. Tell us what you think about using GPSs. Some people are still using paper maps. And then Ruth says...
Tabitha might sit it down and show it how to pronounce. Sorry.
Okay. And then Ruth says, I hate that voice too. You can just glance at it and keep driving. You can absolutely drive without the voice. And then Rasan Asema, next time stop by Worcester. We actually had an interesting experience in Worcester. We're going to talk about it later on.
We went to Worcester
in the show. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. But I want to go back to Wanjeri and get to the dinner with champions. Now, Wanjeri, maybe for those who might have missed this event or those who've never attended this event, just briefly talk about what the Boston Marathon dinner with champion is. Just briefly, Wanjeri.
Yeah, so Boston, Run with Champions started about, I think 2009 or 2010 by a guy called Wilson. And the point is for Kenyans and other people who love sports to come and interact with the athletes who run. It started out with just Kenyan athletes, and then the event took a 9-year hiatus, and then it came back. So this is the first year it's come back since 2014, I believe, which was right after the Boston Marathon bombing, which happened in 2013. So it came back this year, and I have to say I was very, very happy that it's back. I think Wilson has done a great job of, trying to recognize those people, the athletes who are such great flag bearers for our country. They're such great ambassadors. I don't think there's any greater ambassador for Kenya than the athletes that we have. And so to see that event come back and actually much bigger, much better. There was Ethiopians in the event, Ethiopian athletes. There was Tanzanian athletes. And then we have the people who are just running, they're not elite athletes, but they run marathons. So there was a lot of people from all over the world, people from Brazil. We had people from Denmark or the Netherlands. We had people from Australia. We had runners from Japan at the event. So it's such a great event to honor those people, to see them, be in their presence, and also wish them good luck for the race. So I think it's all those things in one. I think it's one of those events that everybody should actually make an effort to go.
Okay, now that's very interesting. You talked about marathoners who are not elite runners, but they just showed up for the event to be in the company of Kenyans and to see the Kenyan elite runners. And you mentioned Brazilians, Australians, Denmark, people from Japan. So there was a very wide range of nationalities in that room. And of course, we had the Ethiopian runners who also came too. And definitely Mubelo Bandio will be happy to hear that there was a Tanzanian runner, Gabriel, who was actually there, and we took pictures with him. So it was a very interesting event, very unique. And very interesting. Now, Mike, you had something that you wanted to say.
No, I was going to say, don't forget when the Brazilians were being interviewed, what they said. They said that for them, this is like the mother. What
queen?
Something.
The queen.
The Queen Marathon, right?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Queen Marathon, yes.
And
the ladies. They were ladies,
They
yes.
were just in awe
Yeah.
of being in
Boston.
And
It
I
was
think
the
that
first time in Boston.
It was
and
the
then,
first time
and then
in
I think
Boston.
even coming to that event and seeing, and they were black Brazilians.
Black Brazilians.
So
yes.
coming and
Very
seeing
interesting.
other black folks who are over there, and then these athletes, yeah.
I mean, it was very amazing, and they also had like a translator, because some of them were not very fluent in English. So it was just a very interesting overall experience all round. Now, Wanjeri, had you attended the previous dinners, or was this your first one?
So I had attended actually the very first event, and I also attended the 2010. And the reason I remember the 2010 event is because I actually had flown with Geoffrey Mutai, who actually holds the record for the Boston Marathon. So he has the fastest time for the Boston Marathon at 2:03 something. But his record is not, he didn't get an award for breaking the record because they called it wind assisted. So that January, Geoffrey Mutai we flew Kenyan Airways together, and he was seated next to me. I didn't know who he was, but I could tell he was an athlete. And then our flight got delayed, and we were forced to sleep in benches at an airport in Europe. And so in that whole, he was going for a race in Mexico. And so in that whole process, it was in the winter, it was in January, I was freezing. Okay, you're like at the airport, you've been forced to sleep on the bench. And, we had to spend the night. And he was so kind, he gave me his jacket. Aww. He had taken a blanket from Kenyan Airways. Okay, because we were forced to sleep into a corner at Charles de Gaulle. I'll never fly through Charles de Gaulle again. So we were forced to sleep at a corner.
You're not alone, my friend. You're not alone.
We are many.
And so Geoffrey was trying to give me his blanket, right? He gave me his blanket, which he had grabbed from the plane, those Kenyan Airways blankets. So he gave it to me. He made sure I was warm because I was shivering, and he gave me his jacket. And then the next day we left. He went to Mexico, and I came back to the US. And we actually, when he told me his name, he didn't register. But what happened is that April, he came for the Boston Marathon. And as soon as he saw me, he recognized me. So I was so happy. And I'm like, and he's like, we flew together. And he won that race. He broke the record. He still has the best time at the Boston Marathon. And I took pictures with him. And then I went to the next one. And then I think after that, I was just never in the country when the Boston Marathon is gone. Because at times it's around Easter. And I tend to be in Kenya around Easter, right? So I missed a few of them. And that's why I was like, I have to go back for this one. Because it's, it's a first time since probably like 2011. I think that's the last time I attended.
Okay, all right. Asante sana, Wanjeri. And maybe now I just want to come to the panel in the studio and to Mika, who's also on Zoom. Wanjeri mentioned that he did not, she did not recognize who Mutai was, like when they were at the airport in Charles de Gaulle. And a lot of these marathon runners who are world record holders, it's going to be, I think it's very fair when I say that a majority of Kenyans, if they saw them on the streets, they don't know who they are.
They would not know them.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that the guy is wearing a tracksuit and maybe it might say Kenya.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times when those jamas travel, Mika and it could be me, they actually are wearing athletic gear. But
let me ask a quick question here. I'm going to come to your motion, then we'll go to you, Mika. What do you think needs to be done? Because think about it. Even in sports that are not the most popular sports out here in the US, and maybe this is a bad comparison. Think about a sport like maybe tennis. Tennis is not the most popular sport. But even if you don't watch tennis, you're going to know who the best players are. You're going to know who Coco Gauff is, even if you've just had the name in passing, even if you've just seen the face in passing. When Serena was playing, you would know who Serena Williams is or Venus Williams. What is it that we need to do to make these faces recognizable to Kenyans? Because these are not only Kenyan champions, they are world champions. And they've been winning these races multiple times. Omosh, and then I'm going to come to you, Mika.
I think it has to be, we have to be very, what was it that Uno said?
Intentional.
Yes, we have to be extremely intentional. And it starts with, for me, I would say, and everybody, probably would say, you guys are pushing too much, our Ministry of Sports as well as the tourism.
Yeah,
they need to push that. And I don't even know who, I was going to say markets Kenya in general, because it seems like there seems to be the tourism board, Sijimara, it's the tourist, I don't know, like Ministry of Tourism. Then when it comes to sports, then it's pushed onto the sports guys. So it seems like there's really nobody who's actually holding the mantle, so to speak, of like going forward and saying, okay, this is our champion. Other than to say Kipchoge, who it's like, what's that company? Is it Ineos or
Even before Ineos, Nike, of course, was...
so if you don't have a deal with a sneaker company like Nike or like Ineos was pushing for the record, right? Nobody knows who you are. Like, nobody's pushing. And our own people, when I say our own people, I say between the ministry, the tourism board, TSG Tembea Kenya, I don't know, all these funny things that we have. Why don't we use our athletes to market the country?
Now, but here's my question. There's one thing about marketing the country outside, but I'm talking about just Kenyans.
No,
Kenyans in Wargaduru, Kenyans in Moyale,
but
knowing who this guy is.
But
that's another level.
Here's the thing.
That's a whole other level.
If you put them out there where they are being seen, our people will know them. That's the problem. They're not seen. It's like our own people don't say anything about them. And the other thing is that we also don't have any races in Kenya that these guys would actually go to and shine, that people attend, or that folks know of, so to speak.
All right. Let's go to Mika, and then we're going to come to you, Uno Mike. Mika, same question. What needs to be done internally? You know, like, let's not even get to the international scene. Internally, think about Kipchoge. He's been in the Olympics since 2004. Believe it or not, Kipchoge was running in Athens in 2004. For those who remember, I think Slay might have been a toddler then, but Kipchoge was already running, you know, in 2004. So, Mika, what needs to be done for these faces to be recognizable, you know, like across the country, even before they become global hits? Mika, twende kazi. Hey, Mika.
He's on mute.
No, I think it's
GPS.
He has new headphones.
He's on GPS.
He's on
Okay.
GPS.
What are twende?
The thing that I think...
Okay.
No.
Okay, sawa tuendelee. Hiyo tutadecide baadaye who muted who. But Mika.
No, ni mimi nilikuwa nimemute.
Okay. Aya.
No, the thing is, first of all, I think you have to make the country fall in love with the sport.
Okay.
Right? And making the country fall in love with the sport means that how do you... I'll give an example. Right now, there's an Olympics that's starting in a few weeks.
July.
I think we are on 90-something days to the Olympics. If we're not 90-something days, we're 80-something days to the Olympics. But I believe it's 90-something days to the Olympics, because the torch is usually lit 100 days with the Olympics, and it was lit earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen anything that is, you know, Kitambo you would see. When I was young, I remember how I knew about Douglas Wakihuri, even before he ran. I saw Douglas Wakihuri advertising a Nissan called Nissan Sahara.
DT Dope is Nissan.
Pickup, yes.
Douglas Wakihuri's choice. I remember that.
And he was everywhere, right? And even without even just that Nissan Sahara, there was always something. Before the Safari Rally, Patrick Njiru, Shakameta will be everywhere on the TV. Right? Joginda Singh, they will be everywhere on the TV. Before Harambee Stars goes to play everywhere, they will be everywhere on the TV. That's what needs to come back. I don't think that I've seen anything that even is talking about the Olympics because advertisement on Kenyan TV, I always see them on social media. When I watch Kenyan TV, I go to watch live streaming of Kenyan TV, I don't see anything that shows anything that there's an Olympic and there's this and this qualification that have happened. The only time the Olympic marathon team was mentioned was when it was announced, and the sports news that they mentioned it. After that, there's been no mention for that. So to make the people in the country fall in love with it, you don't give them a romantic story to that sport for them to start liking. There's no marketing. If we compare to Americans, as you're comparing with an American sport here, Ali, before, what was her name? Gabby Douglas even hit the Olympics. I'd known about Gabby Douglas because she was being talked about. Sha'Carri was being talked way before the Olympics, even though she was banned from the Olympics. She was talked about way before. Before we went to Oregon last year, Niles and Shakari were all over the news. People are talking about them. They were everywhere. So we do not have that. We do not have. The only time we heard about Omanyala was when he was delayed to get a visa to come to Oregon. Then people will listen. That's when people learn, oh, kuna jamaa wetu Omanyala amenyimwa visa. Undo msokimbia, undo msena mbio. Undo msokimbia. Like, it brought a negative thing for people and people got interest to see how Omanyala performed in Oregon. Okay. They were like, lazima tujue ataperformaje kwa sababu ana visa ama nini. So there needs to be a way whereby the media goes back and makes people fall in love with sports.
Okay.
The marketing, the government, everybody, there is supposed to be need. And then another thing we need to do is just make that sport enjoyable back home. Hatuna mbio Kenya. We don't have marathons. We don't have meet. Like, if there's an event in Kenya that's athleticism, either in Shule or something that is foreign sponsored, or a charity event, or even if there is a race, it's a meet that is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be a qualification of something. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to lead to another thing that goes outside of the country.
Okay, sawa. So Mika's position is make people fall in love with the sport, and I really love that. Let me come back to studio. We're gonna come back to you, Wanjeri, shortly. But let me come to Uno Mike real quick on what his thoughts are on this before we go back to Wanjeri.
I think everything has been really summarized well by Mika, and we really truly have to be intentional, because you guys are talking about Douglas Okehuri. I think at one point in time, David Rudisha was the guy of Kiwi. Yeah. If you guys remember, right? He was. When you look at advertisement, those guys should be on the face of whatever it is.
Yeah.
I believe.
That's even before they blow up across the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even before they decide to do whatever. Because remember, charity begins at home. As the English colloquial language says, Gemishu magana moshe, sindio Wanjeri. Charity begins at home. Yeah. Right? So if you don't,
I agree.
If you don't even teach your children how to discipline themselves, or or if you don't do anything within the home, how are you going to send out your kids out there to be successful when you have not instilled anything in them? So we have to start from within. We have to start building from within. We have to make people fall in love with our runners. We have to make people fall in love with the sport. We should be having cash, whatever, like Mika said, like there has to be some sort of competition where it becomes, whoa, I want to be like that. How many kids here want to be baseball players? How many kids here in America want to be basketball players?
Wengi sana.
Okay, let's leave America. In Cuba, in the DR, in Puerto Rico, everyone wants to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
Right or wrong?
Right.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. If you're in Canada, it's like everyone wants to be a hockey player.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because they have made you fall in love with the sport. Not only that, there are people that those kids look up to. Everyone wants to be like LeBron. I want to be like Mike. I want to be like Wemby or whatever. Who can you say wants to be like Chebet?
That's right there. Who wants to be like Chebet?
Kiptum. Who wants to be like the GOAT? Who wants to be like Edna?
There you go.
Who?
And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to come to you, Wanjeri, some comments here that were coming in while we were having this conversation. Ruth is saying advertising, get them brand deals and you'll know them. Stephen JJ says TV deals. We grew up watching these guys kwa TV. And then Stephen JJ Father says hata Kenya Breweries Festival of Darts game shot.
Yes.
Sports ilikuwa kwa TV mbaya sana. I remember Alex Kavisi. There was a guy called Alex. I remember him totally. Yeah. Ilikuwa Alex Kavisi game shot. So
game shot.
Yes, and I remember ilikuwa ni Sami Lui who used to tangaza. And then there used to be this guy who would say Kangede, you require 35. You know, and that's something that I now vividly remember because it was always on TV.
Yeah.
And then Stephen JJ says, Yani haileti shangwe. And then Esther Mulusa says, no offense intended, but our runners are a bit rusty. Let them communicate in mother tongue. Then we get translators. Let us dress them well. and make them brand ambassadors who are always in our faces. This I will politely disagree with Esther on that trusty part, you know, and I don't know, you know, like of course Chebet, the one who won, he was, I think, third this year.
He was third.
Yeah, but he won the race last year. And
I think last 2 years, right?
Last 2 years.
Yeah.
And he did his interview in Kiswahili, which is something that's very impressive. And I would love, you know, like for
the winner of this one of this year, the Ethiopian guy, Lema.
Yeah, the Ethiopians do that too.
Yes,
the Ethiopians do that too. But then, you know, like I mean, it's okay to speak English. We need to be comfortable with people speaking English with a broken accent. I think in Kenya, our English levels are very high. So I think it's okay to speak English with a different accent.
It is very okay.
You know, like I personally have no problem with that.
Absolutely. Ali, do you have a twang? You don't have a twang.
No, me, I don't have a twang. Me, I have my Nairobi West accent.
Nonsense.
You know, like,
watu wa Kenya wanakuambia kuna twang.
Tell him to say Google bird. Sorry, carry on.
I mean, that's how we used to say it in Nairobi West. Kwani, how did you guys used to say it in Umoja too?
We didn't have Google bird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uni mutu aonge man. Aliomoka.
Okay.
Aliomoka.
Kubaf.
Yeah. And then Stephen JJ says they can have a translator, and I think it would be good to, you know, like to bring those translators and have them as a standard feature there. But I think, you know, by any standards, an average English speaker in Kenya is above average almost any other part of the world they go. You know, like that's a reason why I think we have very interesting accents in Kenya. You know, like I personally, I'll say, you know, like I came and got comfortable with them when I came to the US. I mean, I was raised in Nairobi. Nairobi, there was this issue of uyu anashrab na uyu nini, which I think was not a good thing.
No, it was
never a good thing. Yeah, but I came to appreciate, you know, like our diversity when I came out here.
We laugh at people who shrub Japanese. We'll like them, but we're going to make fun of people who shrub the same way.
I'm a people who shrub in French, like, oh my goodness, that's so a sexy
cute,
accent. I mean, come on. Anyway, that's a story for another day. You know, let's go back to Boston Marathon, to the dinner with champions, and back to you, Wanjeri. You know, maybe you can just maybe a comment or two on the conversation we've been having, but we want to know what you like
Ali,
about the.
Hold on a minute.
Hi, Mika. Okay.
Before you move.
Yes.
Before you move, nilikuwa nimejimute na jaribu kujiunmute.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
on the topic you're talking about, well, when we see Argentina won the World Cup, Messi gave an interview in his native language.
Yeah.
When we see Italy won the World Cup, the Italians were speaking Italian. They didn't even bother to translate for them.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we want our Kenyans to speak for a language that's not theirs naturally? Why do we insist that you have to do an interview in English, or you have to speak a certain way of doing English? No. Whichever news station wants to interview you should look for a translator, pay that translator. You speak in the language that you're comfortable with so that you can articulate yourself, and whatever you're struggling to speak in that English, like people are telling you to sharpen yourself up, you're supposed to look good. And then when it comes to dressing, no. It is running that you're looking at them. How somebody decides to dress or how somebody decides to look, that is up to them. Okay. Not everybody is going to dress. You know, when LeBron na Dwayne Wade walikuwa na maskat,
walichapwa banta.
Yeah, no.
No. How could you more interviews? They're still doing interviews in those skirts.
No, I agree with Mika 100%, but I think this also has to start from back home in Kenya. You know, like because we need to start popularizing our national language and our local languages.
100%.
Yeah, we need to start popularizing them. You know, one of the best things Moi did with 844 was make Kiswahili compulsory. For a lot of people who don't know, Kiswahili was not compulsory until 844 in the 80s. So a lot of people who went to school in the 70s, a lot of them did not do Kiswahili in school.
Cannot write a shairi for nothing. They don't know about Amba, Abacho.
Yeah, so I think even the level at where Kiswahili is right now in Kenya is still very low, because it's still being taught as a foreign language. I think it can be upgraded a bit. It can be upgraded
thoroughly.
It can be upgraded gradually.
I don't know, but zile ngeli zilikuwa zinanipiga tafash.
It can be upgraded gradually to get people who are professionally competent in Kiswahili.
Okay.
Who are comfortable going and doing an interview about Boston Marathon Dinner with Champions in Kiswahili. That's a level where we need to get. It's not being taken seriously, but one of the highest paying jobs right now, I have some family members who have schools. One of the most difficult teachers to find in Kenya is a Kiswahili teacher.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, and one who can actually
is a Kiswahili
put it
teacher.
Together.
That's one of the most difficult teachers to find. So if you're a Kiswahili teacher, you're very high in demand. But anyway, this is a story for another day. Gonna go back to Wanjeri. We were asking you to tell us what you like most about
Kenya. Watu wangia Kiswahili ni watu wa Coast na Waluya pekee.
Anyway, Wanjeri, what did you like most about the Dinner with Champions Boston Marathon before we get off into tangents? Wanjeri.
In Kiswahili.
So I want to go back to the previous point.
Yes.
There's a lady who made a comment and said the athletes are rusty. First of all, I completely disagree with that. Actually, our athletes are known outside the world. And I'll tell you, I've been to about 56 countries. And every place I go, and I say I'm Kenyan, and I kid you not, like clockwork, people will name for you the Kenyan athletes. They'll tell you who won them. I remember the first time I went to Cuba, right? Cuba is a country that has been under an embargo. And people will count for you. Oh, you won the steeplechase. They know the history of Kenyans winning the steeplechase, right?
Even boxing,
they know the athletes who've won the Olympics, the Boston Marathon, right? This is a country under an embargo, right? And they know these people. I went to Argentina. I met people who they can give you the history of Kenyan runners, right? So I think us as a country, we are actually the ones who don't know our athletes. Last year I did a road trip in Italy. I cannot tell you how many people had Kipchoge's jersey. It's just that I don't like taking pictures of people, right? Like there are people who had Kipchoge's jersey from Ineos. You go to Denmark, you can find people having athlete jerseys of Kenya. There's a time Nike had the Kenyan jerseys. I remember I saw them at a store in Europe. You'll find people with those jerseys, right? So I think from a Kenyan standpoint, I think for like myself, like until the Dinner with Champions started, we absolutely had no access to the athletes, right? So we would go for a long time, from like 98, we would go to the finish line of the Boston Marathon and we would hope to catch a glimpse of the Kenyans. And their handlers from Nike, Adidas, they would never let that happen. So you actually have to go and watch them on TV because when you're there, they cross the finish line, they're taken away by Nike and their handlers, or the John Hancock, the sponsors and everything. So then you don't get to meet them. So you're actually forced to rely on watching them on TV. The other thing is that people completely underestimate is those guys are very humble. I flew with Jeffrey Motai. He was seated next to me on the plane. He never brought up the fact that he's an athlete. Actually, I found out he's an athlete when we got to the airport and they denied, and he had an athlete visa, whatever category they're given, and they refused to let him stay in a hotel. He actually had a hotel booking to go sleep in a hotel. And they denied him booking. And he didn't make a fuss. And I remember thinking, if I had won a marathon and you refused to let me go sleep in a hotel, you will not hear the end of it. That guy did not make a fuss. We went and sat next together. We had lunch together. So we're talking about his sports and everything. Those guys are very humble. They don't go out of their way to bring attention to themselves. And I think until you're next to them, you would not know. Somebody like Kipchoge, I think if Ineos had not made him the star that he is, maybe Kenyans would not know him, right? Kiptum, if he didn't break the record in Chicago the way that he did, would Kenyans even know him? Probably not, right? We don't have events. I remember when we were growing up, and it's sad because it's during Moi days, they would meet the athletes at the airport, right? They would have big fanfare after the Olympics or All African Games. Those things are gone. When Kiptum broke the Chicago Marathon record, I thought he would get a hero's welcome in Kenya, right? It's only his family who met him at the airport. Right?
Yeah. So did we. We thought that would happen. It didn't happen.
Right. So I think we just do. So I think what I'm trying to get is our athletes are not rusty. They don't need to change anything about themselves. The rest of the world recognizes them. Okay. And I've learned that through my travel. And actually, I think I always post, like, at times somebody will give you a blow by blow account. I think it's us who don't know them. And I think the other thing is Kenya, for those of us who grew up like in the 90s, there was track and field in primary school and in secondary school, right? So I know, like, our primary school, we used to go for competitions for track from like standard 4. You compete with other schools back at standard 8. You go to high school, there's track. And that got lost at some point in Kenya because of people just being pushed to just cram. So that curriculum, that extracurricular of having sports and track sort of got away from our school. So the kids are not growing up with like that as an option, right? So then you don't know how, like, Kipchoge became an athlete. You think it's just something that happens in 10 or whatever. So I think it's a failure on multi levels, but I don't think the athletes need to change anything about themselves. Okay. And that one I completely disagree.
Yeah, so I agree with you on that. Like, one thing that I learned about marathon runners, and this is from people who run like Eshurandula Louis. He told me, like, when you're a runner, when you're running a marathon, it's your legs, the road, your body, and your mind. There's absolutely nothing else at that particular moment that's occupying your mind. It's just that road and how far your body and how fast your body can take you. And that's a very humbling experience when you think that most people cannot run for, let me say, even 10 minutes, and they'll be breathing very heavily. And this is a majority of people. And then you have someone here who's running at a very blistering pace for 2 hours and X number of minutes. So that right there should tell you something about their humility. I know people are used to stars in other sports who are braggadocious, and I think, like, marathon runners are just a different breed of people. Like, they most, and this is most of them. They have very humble personalities. They're not out there, like screaming I'm the best, and that's just not in their personality, especially the ones, and not only the Kenyans, even the Ethiopians and other countries that have produced great marathon runners. I mean, it's far few between Kenya and Ethiopia. We have the lion's share, but they tend not to be braggadocious. And those who are braggadocious, when they come to the marathons, they get humbled. A good example is this guy who was a champion of 10,000 meters, the British guy, Mo Farah. He came to the marathons.
Mo Farah.
Yeah, Mo Farah. He was a braggadocious guy. He came to the marathons, and brother was humbled proper. Brother was humbled. Yeah, I know Mika's been waiting all year to get in that line. So there's your moment, Mika.
That's the braggadocio you're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, now, let me just to echo to add.
Yeah, Mika.
I was saying Ali has a point here, whereby what most people don't realize is that this is a guy who has trained for 6 months to run for 2 hours, right? In those 6 months, this guy has been running for hours every day. So for him, his discipline, his determination, his dedication, right, before he even put in the talent, puts him in a place whereby when it comes to life, or when it comes to things about life, he's a superhuman. He has learned to filter out everything and to just focus on what he's doing, which is running. So this is somebody who you find to be very humble, like mtu apendi maneno mingi, apendi shida, apendi nini, like it's just humbleness. And if you've ever noticed all these athletes, the moment they start living in a worldly life, like wanze pombe, wanze nini, they never make it far. They never make it far. Kina Kemboi, kina nani, look at them. After starting all the drama of living life, as in nimekuwa star, nimefanya nini, look at them. Look at how long they live into that life. So these are people that before you turn around and start saying that you want to judge this is a superhuman person.
Okay.
The percentage of human beings that can do this is 0.001%.
Yes, it's very few people. Let's go back to Wanjeri and maybe let's get back now to the event. What is it that you liked most about the dinner that you attended with all these great marathon runners and the Kenyans who attended too, Wanjeri?
I would say that actually the biggest highlight for me was Edna Kiplagat. She had signed a deal with Puma, I think when she was 42, right? And that's, when you're 42 and a shoe company thinks you're worth being their brand ambassador, that's huge. She signed a contract with Puma. She runs with their shoes, and she came third in that marathon at 44 years old. Yeah. And when we talk about not marketing our Kenyans, I think of all the things that came out of that marathon, that is one person I felt did not actually get the recognition because it's not everybody who is winning. I think she's actually the oldest person. She has a record for the oldest person at an elite level to come to do that well in an elite marathon, right? But I think seeing her in the audience, she had her kids with her. I think she had two of her kids with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that was for me, it was just mind blowing because you've seen her on TV, and then you actually get to see her live, and then you see her 2 days later come third in the marathon. I think to me that was actually the biggest highlight. I didn't think she got enough attention even after the win. I think the other big thing for me was to see people bring out their kids. Previous events, I never saw people bringing their kids, especially American-born children. And it was really nice to see all these young kids wearing Kenyan T-shirts. It actually made me feel bad because I was not wearing a Kenyan T-shirt or traditional.
No. You were color coordinated, which was on point like a decimal.
Yes, so I had to intentionally wear the Kenyan flag colors because I didn't have the, like a traditional outfit. But I think those children being there, and seeing how happy they were. I think there was one kid at our table, right? She was very excited to be there.
Yeah.
I think to me that is some of the great things about the marathon. We also got to see the voice of the Boston Marathon, Mr. Larry.
Mm-hmm.
He's been the official announcer for the Boston Marathon for the last 50 years. So to have him there, he knew so much history of Kenyans in the Boston Marathon, the history of the Boston Marathon, which was embarrassing because we didn't know as much history as we did. But that is, some of the other highlights. I'll let you, I don't know what others you have in mind.
Okay, sawa asante sana. I just want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the OneMic Show, and I'm your host and producer Ali Badawi. We of course here with the most indefatigable Bostonian, Miss Wanjeri. She does not like using microwaves and GPSs, but she's here talking about Dinner with Champions, which is the event prior to the just concluded Boston Marathon. Lines are open. I don't know whether our phones are working tonight. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Feel free to call in and ask Wanjeri any questions. Now, later in the show, we'll talk about, and she already started talking about them, that's American-born kids, and how to engage them to want to come to such events. But before that, Mika, please tell us, mbona ukuvaa daishiki? Mika.
Haya. Yani,
he's on mute.
You just outed him like that. His mute button, he has to go and look for it where he found the daishiki.
Okay.
Nimeipata, mnasemaje?
Watu wanauliza, you are supposed to get a $19.99 daishiki.
Hell no.
From Amazon. Mbona ukuvaa daishiki?
Those things are ugly.
Yeah, Mika. You did not want to wear that. You had again, eh?
Niliwaambia zivai dashiki na nikwambia mtu hii na nimevaa. Ushaona nimevaa kitu yote iko na Africa please me.
So you don't like African stuff?
So you don't like
I
African?
like African stuff. Niko na kanzu, niko na kikoi,
Okay.
niko na shuka ya Kimasai,
Okay.
niko na walai.
Okay. Okay.
Walai ndio.
Ni hiyo tu hizo vitu sijui zimedanganywa sijui ati sijui.
Walai ni kofia.
So kufi ndio gani?
Walai ni kofia. Wewe unaonekana.
Walai ni kofia. Wewe hujui. Unaona sasa mimi
you're out of touch.
That's what I'm asking. So kufi ndio gani?
You're out of touch. Kufi sasa unaongea, you're talking American language. Washa sikia mtu Kenya amepata kusema kufi.
Si ndio nauliza. When which country have I lived in over the last 30 years?
Well,
Kumwambia walai ni kofia ngepa.
So ungesema ngepa.
Yeah, so very interesting, and I think I'm tempted one day in these events.
Yes.
Ndakuja na kikoi na nimevaa makubadhi pia. Mnajua makubadhi?
No, those are the sandals that talk like Mika.
There you go. Yes. Ndakuja na kikoi na makubadhi na labda nikuja na mswaki ile mti. Alafu mtu aniulize kwa nini nakuja na mswaki hapa kwa event.
Utakula na kale kamawe, kale ya iron.
No, hiyo mawe si ile ya kunini, ile ya kusugua miguu.
Hapana, kuna
ama unaongea juu mawe gani?
Kuna ile mawe ukulwa for iron.
No, yeah. Hiyo hapo I remember, like some pregnant mothers used to crave for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So very interesting stuff. But anyway, let's go back to Wanjeri. You talked about kids in the audience. And it was very interesting to see the different range of ages, from very young kids to teenagers, to like kids who were in college in the late teens, early 20s.
The ones who were doing the national anthems.
Yeah, the one who did the national anthem.
Both of them. They were young. I think they were like 20. I think they were 20 something.
Maybe one of them was young. The other one, I don't know. She was young, but not the young.
Maybe Wanjeri can tell us.
Yeah, maybe Wanjeri can tell us because she's familiar with them.
With her young eyes.
Because there were two girls who sang the national anthem.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
also presented. There was a presentation of a song.
There was a presentation also of a song. But generally speaking, Wanjeri, what do we need to do to make them want to come, and not even have their parents ask them to come, to make them want to come to these events the way we just go to them, Wanjeri?
I think, honestly, probably social media, and I don't think most of those athletes are actually like on social media. The younger generation obviously operates more on TikTok and all. I'm not on TikTok myself, but I imagine most of these athletes, they're not online. Kipchoge has a public profile, I think, because he's just very huge. But I think most of these other athletes from Kenya are not. So then, unless you see them run and they win a marathon, whether it's in New York, Chicago, the Olympics, you probably would not know them. But I think that's where our government and the tourism brand Kenya, or whatever they call themselves, should do a better job of making sure that these people are known. I think something interesting, like in Boston, Kipchoge is always on TV, right? Kipchoge is a brand ambassador for Abbott, the pharmaceutical company. So he's always on TV. You'll see him, he's in their commercials. I think he was in another Coke commercial. So like Kipchoge has a very public face. But I don't know whether it's because of his agents or whether it's because of who he is. But I think that he brings that excitement. And like last year when he participated, there were so many people who came to see him just because of who he is, right? But I think in general, maybe we also have to impress on the young people, on our athletes, let them know who they are, but we also need to know who they are. And I take it upon myself as well. I keep up with track, but honestly, if those guys walked next to me, I would not know who they are, right? And I think that's what we probably need to be more intentional about, like OneMic said, we just need to be more intentional in knowing them, in sharing within our own community who they are, because again, internationally, those people are known. I think we're the ones who don't know them.
100.
Okay, 100%. A couple of comments had been coming here as we were having this conversation. Now, earlier on, Esther was saying the foreign countries are monetizing our athletes. I hope they benefit from the sport paraphernalia, memorabilia. And then Pablo says, quick question, did the athlete speak up about the hotel admission because he was not bold in? Did the athlete not speak up about the hotel admission because he was not bold enough, did not want to speak up and say he was an athlete, or why? Because if he had a hotel reservation, should have said he had one, not so much of show off. I tie this with negotiating contracts and endorsements. Wasigongwe ama be undercut. And then Esther says Kenya has a lot of undiscovered talent. Many people don't go anywhere because of favoritism, and also the number of competitors is limited. That percentage of championships is much higher if everyone was given a chance. And then let me see, Indefatigable here on the show, but still commenting. He's saying he did show immigration officials his credentials. They didn't care for anyone traveling on a non-Western passport. And then and then Kenyan Jui says, can we address the fact that there is blatant discrimination with the prize money, that there is much higher separate pot set aside should an American win the Boston Marathon? That I did not know. You know, like,
can I comment on that?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Wanjeri.
So it's not that the official, so I know when the BAA, so when the John Hancock was the official sponsors, right? So for a long time, the Boston Marathon had the lowest prize money of all the major marathons, because they always look at the Boston Marathon as if you win here, if you do very well, you're an elite runner, and they always had this thing that you make more money elsewhere. So if you look at the history of the Boston Marathon, like when I came to America, the prize money was very, very low. And they actually just increased the prize money not too long ago to $150,000 for men, right? So the reason there is a bigger prize money if an American wins is because, for one, Americans don't win, okay? So it's understandable. And two, it's actually the sponsors who offer more money. It's not the official. So when John Hancock was a sponsor, though it's not John Hancock who was coming and saying that if an American wins, it's more money. No, because I think that would actually be challenged. So what was happening is other sponsors, like local companies, would be like, if an American wins, we'll throw in 50,000 or whatever, but it's not actually the official Boston Marathon position. Wow. I just want to correct that misconception, because I've been here for 27 years. That much I know.
Well, that's quite interesting. That's some good information, you know, that I wasn't aware about, and it's good to know, you know, like, because I mean, if you start offering that extra money to Kenyan winners, then you will be giving extra money every year, you know, and I think it's also important we talk about also the women's race that was won by Helen Obiri. That's also another very interesting runner who moved from track and got to marathons, because the women went 1, 2, 3. I know Obiri was first. I can't remember the name of the second one, but number 3 was
Lokedo.
It was Lokedi. Yeah, Lokedi, who's also at some point I think won the New York Marathon. And it would be good to just get some of these athletes. We've always wanted to interview some of them. We see them, you know, like when they come for these events like the Boston Marathon, the Chicago Marathon, but we don't know how to get.
We're trying to be international. We're trying to be intentional.
We are trying to be intentional to get them popular. We're even here having a whole show about the Boston Marathon, and we want to make this a normal thing. I know it's been a challenge attracting influencers, promoters, DJs, and all other kinds of people who have influence within the Kenyan community towards marathons, which we always win. And I think part of the problem might be because running doesn't have that sex appeal that maybe rugby has, or maybe another type of event has. But I think this is something that can be taught, because even when rugby started, it used to be a handful of people, the original LA.
Correct.
It used to be a handful of people, then slowly people started getting buy-in, and then promoters.
San Diego,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You're right. LA, the original LA, yes.
Yeah, the original
it was
LA. San Diego, it was a handful of people, but once, like promoters, like noticed that crowds are going there, that's when, like promoters even who don't know how to spell the word rugby were jumping in and trying to be part of it. So promoters, I'm telling you, this is the time, because what's going to happen is that these events are going to grow. This Boston event is going to grow. Chicago has an event. Faith Chepkwony and DJ Top Don have been doing it for a couple of years. They're going to have it this year again in October. We got word from Faith Chepkwony that New York Marathon in November, there will also be an event. Tutakuwa kwa ground. So if you're a promoter, a DJ, I'm telling you right now, this is the time to jump on the bandwagon. Once hii meli imeng'oa nanga, envy the people's kamkunji na inaelekea, kutakuwa hakuna kudandia tu kama mat, because hii itakuwa maji, ukijaribu kudandia utazama. Anyway, Mike, you have some comments.
So some other attendees, and I'll be quick. So here, the question, what were your highlights of the event? This one said, getting to see and be in the same room with the athletes up close, which I think all of us enjoyed.
Yes.
The wonderful shout out by the guy who's been the voice of the marathon for many years,
Larry,
echoed by Wanjeri. Seeing Kenyans and non-Kenyans come together in numbers to support athletes, again being intentional. We are slowly opening the doors to that. The inclusion of the non-Kenyan athletes, the Ethiopian, the Tanzanian, that was very good. And the food was delicious. I don't know if you've gotten there yet. And the caterer was organized to have the food diversity, and the thoughtfulness behind the venue, the idea to validate parking, which we did not know about it. Good size space for the event, good DJ selection. For now, those are the comments on that one. The other one that I had was I think they were like sort of, what were your highlights of the event? Again, seeing the champions, interacting with them, meeting new people, and celebrating Kenya with music. What did this one like the most? Meeting and taking pics with the athletes.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I have one comment.
Me have a comment. I have a comment before.
Mika briefly, and then we're gonna go to Wanjeri.
Oh Lord.
For me, my highlight was the tribute that Larry gave to Kiptum.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, amazing, and I don't know if there's anybody in that room who knew so much history about Kiptum like he did. And everything that he said was things that if somebody ever has a clip of that tribute and you went and ask any media station in Kenya if they knew anything or half of what Larry knew about Kiptum, I'm sure a lot of people don't have that. So for me, that was the highlight of that event.
Okay, all right. So yes, that was really amazing. And it gets very, I don't know that you use the word embarrassing when this comes from people who are not even Kenyan.
No, boss, it's okay. Just say the word.
Yeah, it's
embarrassing.
Yeah, it's
okay. It is what it is.
Yes, it's very embarrassing.
But then
but
also you have to realize somebody like Larry lives and breathes athletics.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I'm sure there's, even if you search around the globe, there are very few news reporters who know
marathons,
the information that he knows about marathons. Yeah.
Yes, very true. Now, also a big shout out to Wahome Wilson, the organizer of this event. I mean, he's one of those people who doesn't like public accolades so much, but Wahome, this was big, especially after 9-year hiatus. We were in that organizing committee, and he provided very good leadership, because there was a lot of doubts. We've not had this event for 9 years. Will people show up and everything? So Wahome, this was a fantastic job, and now we're looking forward to an even bigger one next year. Wanjeri, you had something that you wanted to say.
I wanted to say, when we talk about promoters for the event, right? So remember, this event Run with Champions used to happen before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I remember is the very bad habit of Kenyans trying to undercut each other started. So there's another promoter in Boston who actually started a parallel event, and he would confuse people because he would have the official run with champions event, and then he would create a similar event with a venue nearby. And so if you're actually not very conscious and you're not paying attention, and those days social media was not as huge as it is now, people would actually go to the wrong event and then realize, oh, the marathon people are not here, right? So even as we talk about the promoters, I think, and I don't know if that's actually why that event kind of died. I think it would be interesting to get that perspective.
Are you talking about? Are you talking about the? Was it an Ajabu Africa event? Yes, we have to mention them.
Yes.
I know you won't, but I will.
Yes,
but I will.
So
I know
I think
you're in Boston.
So I know people who actually bought tickets to that event thinking it's the official run with marathon, run with champions event, and they felt cheated, right? So I think we need to, if we have to make this event successful like the way it was, we can't have parallel side shows. We can't mislead some other people. You can't have another promoter hijack somebody's hard work. I think Wilson works really hard to have those athletes, because the reason rugby and those other events are successful is because you actually have a chance to interact with those people. The people who come for the marathons, they're on very tight schedule, right? They have sponsored events, they have media events, they have all these things, and then they actually make time, whether it's 2 hours, to come and meet with people who are not paying them, right? We are not paying them. There's nothing in it for them besides meet other Kenyans. So then it's very bad for us to then have parallel side shows. And I think that's what we have to address if we have to be successful, that we don't have these side shows.
And let me address something here, because I think it's important we talk about these issues so that these people who are doing these side shows to take advantage of someone else's hard work understand that we know exactly what they're doing. Part of the reason, and I don't even know whether I'm supposed to say this in public, part of the reason why Dinner with Champions took a hiatus for, I think it was 9 years. I mean, of course, in between, it was supposed to come back, but
because of COVID.
COVID happened, so we can take away those 3-4 years of COVID. So you can say 5 years is the organizers of the Dinner with Champions, Wilson Wahome, was very frustrated. And anyone would be when you work hard and then there are people on the side who would organize an event, same time, close to the same area, and confuse people so that people buy tickets to that event thinking that it is the event where they're going to see the marathon runners. Hiyo hapo, in very simple language, tunaita wizi ama tunaita ufisadi ama uharibifu. And I think this needs to be called out. So one of the reasons why he took a break is because he was like, okay, now this event has become very popular. Everyone is trying to do, like side events to take advantage of the crowds that are coming here. So he stepped back. He was like, you know what? I'm going to step back. You guys do it.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened? For 9 years, nobody stepped up. All these people who are doing these side events, waliingia gizani, waliingia mitini. So please, if you're one of those people, I'm not gonna,
cockroaches.
Yeah, I'm not gonna give the benefit of mentioning you a second time. I've already mentioned it. Or if you're anyone who plans now, once these events start taking off again,
you shall be
to come on the side. You will be muliquad. And I think
you've been put on notice.
Yeah, this is behavior that needs to stop.
100%.
We also saw this behavior in Las Vegas where, like some promoters had become very bold to the point they were hosting pool parties when rugby was happening at the stadium. This behavior needs to stop.
But it was a mansion party.
Yeah, whatever you call it, whether you want to call it a mansion party, a pool party, whatever kind of party you want to call it.
Meet the stars.
That needs to end. So I'm glad that Wanjeri, you brought it up. And hopefully, if you're one of the people who was doing this and are planning to start doing it again, please, or if you have a friend or a friend of a friend who plans to do it, please let them know that we have you on our watch list.
No, it's okay. You do it.
Yeah.
Well, you just go ahead and do it. If you're the one who, if you intend to do it, please, by all means, you're being double dared. Yeah, go ahead.
Me, I'm scared.
But
And
you
then
see, the problem of doing it is that it confuses the public.
It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. But see, we know who it is. It's
No,
going to be.
the reason why it's not.
Watajua hawajui.
But the reason why it's not okay is because
No, it's
these
not okay,
people-
absolutely.
These people who put their effort.
Oh, absolutely. I
in
agree with you
planning
100%.
this, you know, like it becomes very, very difficult, and that's what has killed a lot of Kenyan reunions, whereby people put so much hard work into organizing something, then there's a guy mwenye anadandia tu kama mat at the very last minute, and then they have a side thing, and then they're saying, oh, this has nothing to do with that. We actually got in trouble, you know, I don't know if I should talk about this again because we squashed that beef. We got in trouble with some Tanzanian promoters who were doing this during rugby sevens, you know, like bringing a popular Tanzanian artist on the side coincidentally on rugby weekend. And we talked about it, and we're glad we've not seen that happen since then. So these are the things that I think that we sometimes avoid talking about, but they need to be talked about. And that's how we're gonna become successful at doing these events. I can see some comments here were coming in. Wanjeri was saying it's expected. It's not the official marathon position. It's sponsors who offer more money if an American wins. Okay? And then Rasvik ni kama unataka kula block. I don't know what Rasvik said hapo awali. And then yeah, it's not official. This was regarding the I think this was regarding the prize money for.
No, Rasvik amesema hapa my highlight ni vile mulipotea.
Oh, kupotea huko.
Surely.
That is his highlight.
Surely.
Vile tulipotea. With a human GPS in the car driving.
Okay, all right.
Some Kenyagarikas could have driven.
So I mean, this is a small part, but I think we're gonna give. You mentioned food earlier on, and it was interesting, you know, like the type of food that was there. But let me let Wanjeri, you know, like speak about her experience with the food during the event.
I have to say, first of all, Wilson, kudos to Wilson for bringing this event. The food was great. There was even injera, I think that's how you say it, the Ethiopian bread. It was good to see cuisine from East Africa. The food was enough. I don't think anybody food. There was ndaos, you know, there was snacks.
The Buddhas ilikuwa the Buddha.
Oh, there was the Buddhas. I missed that one.
What are those? What are those?
Don't worry.
Okay.
Mse wa Nairobi West we get.
Sambosa.
No, we never used to have those in Nairobi West.
Oh, sorry. The Buddha.
Yeah, those we did not have those.
Yeah, so the food was plenty. The one thing that also I thought was quite the attention to detail was the flowers in the room. So the decoration was actually the official colors of the Boston Marathon, which is yellow and blue. So the flowers in the whole room were blue and yellow, right? The roses were yellow.
The centerpieces?
Yes.
That's
right. So,
okay.
Yeah, those are Boston Marathon colors.
Marathon colors, right? So it was quite the attention to
I didn't
details.
catch that. Wow.
Yes, the tablecloths were blue, right?
Yes.
The tablecloths were blue.
Yes, they were, yeah.
The flowers were blue and yellow. Actually, I still have my flowers. They're still thriving. Okay, the ones that I brought home.
They're still
so
thriving.
I think, so I think Wilson and his wife and anybody who volunteered, they really did take the time to put the detail into, subtle things like that, which you might not actually notice, but then, like, to me, I actually noticed when I got home, I'm like, these are the colors of the Boston Marathon, right? So the attention to that kind of detail, the food, the music, it's commendable. I mean, like, I was blown away. For an event where the fee is $50 and it's right in Copley Square, which is a very expensive part of the city, it was pretty good. So kudos to them. That was impressive. I can't even say anything less.
I think Mike broke his what was it called, his intermittent
where his own stories are side tent.
Where, but there's some stories we put in the
put on the side.
Yeah, you can't say it.
Madazi.
The Buddha.
How many plates? 5.
Madazi na chai.
Nakashai.
There was also chai.
Chai ya maziwa.
Yes.
So I don't think he had seen maziwa in a while. Maybe he's been doing strungi.
Yeah, he's been doing black tea.
Correction, black coffee.
Oh, black coffee.
Oh, get it right, Madasokas.
Yeah.
Sorry, Basi.
Yeah. And then, it was also nice that there was...
But that chai was good.
The chai was solid.
Yes.
The chai was solid. I think
We
it was
can't
also...
believe Mika.
It was also nice, and unfortunately, I missed out. There was also Ethiopian food.
Yes.
There was so much
Yeah, there
food.
was.
Like Wanjeri said,
Yeah.
there was injera, then there was that kuku, the kuku with the eggs.
Yes, that
sauce.
that was Ethiopian.
It was on point like a decimal.
So by the time I was getting to the Ethiopian part, my sahani, there's a certain amount.
Your radius had...
My radius had radiused.
So
My
pi...
radius had radiused.
So pi could not get you to the chat.
No, 2 pi r. Was it 2 pi? No, it was 2 pi r Amani. I'm even forgetting my formulas. But my radius had radiused. So
It's pi 314.
ilikuwa imetosha, but yeah, it was a very good experience. And of course, this was the first time this was being done after so many years. So I think this will just get better. I was seeing non-Kenyans also enjoying Kenyan food.
We had a lot of non-Kenyans.
Yes,
there was a lot of non-Kenyans.
That's the other interesting part.
The Japanese,
So
and
there were the
they're
runners.
also participating.
There were the runners, but then there are random people who just bought tickets. One thing that a lot of people maybe don't know, like when these tickets were released, initially, we were a bit worried because the names we were seeing of people buying tickets were names like Smith, Jones, we're not seeing the Kamaus and the Omondis. But of course, they come in on the last minute.
Not even last minute.
Yeah.
On that day.
Yeah,
on the day of.
I know. Despite people being told that
No tickets will be sold.
Or people say they'll buy tickets, and then they don't buy. Then when they try to buy, the website is buffering.
Yeah, the website is buffering because
I feel attacked.
Oh,
No.
I didn't mention anyone.
Did you mention anyone?
No, nobody was mentioned.
No one was mentioned.
You mean that's what happened to you?
Allah?
What happened to you, Angela? Talk to us.
Do tell. Todo umeji inua.
What happened to you?
Silence is golden, eh?
Hey, now you're quiet. Now you're shy.
So before we were rudely interrupted.
Yeah.
while the show was buffering.
When the show was buffering. No, again, Kenyans, we have no, like it was the people. There was a lot of people.
There was a lot of
Let me
people.
just say that.
Yeah.
They had to add chairs.
Yes.
It got to a point.
The chairs were not enough.
Oh, they added.
Yeah.
They added chairs to tables. Yes, you're right.
Chairs were added.
You're
There was
right.
a lot of people.
Yeah, because each table was sitting 8 and they were expanding to like 10.
Yeah, they expanded it to 10 because watu walikuja wakawa wengi sana. So
because
this
even
was
even people, like even when it was time to serve, guys were chopping the circular. But even after serving, people, they had to add a lot because they added the tables along by where the food had been served and on the wall, like all over the place. So kulikuwa na watu wengi, but it was good times.
Yeah. And then Pablo here is saying right here, Ali Badawi speaking up and not shying away. And I guess that's about the people doing side events, and we're gonna keep speaking about that so that they know that we are watching. And then Kenyan Jui here. Actually, we saw someone in Worcester, and we suspected it was Kenyan Jui, but maybe Kenyan Jui can confirm to us if that was him or if
not.
it is or not. But we saw someone and we suspected it was you, Kenyan Jui. But Kenyan Jui will tell us here. But Kenyan Jui saying I was previously questioning why they had cover charge, but after Wanjeri's description of the event, I take it back. And let me say something. That cover charge did not cover the
costs
of doing the event.
No.
Yeah.
I think if anything, probably it may have just covered the venue.
Yeah, there's some people who
renting the
dipped
venue.
into their pockets, and this is why I give a lot of credit to Wahome, despite what some people on the sidelines will say.
Genie.
Yes. Despite what some people on the side will say, because this was it was a very expensive event. It was a very expensive venue. And the money that people paid, and it was only $50, like here's an interesting thing about Wahome. He wanted to charge a lower price, and
Ukamwambia wacha
we had to
ujinga.
tell him no, 50 is already on the lower side,
Yes,
So
for dinner, yes.
yes, for that kind of event.
For dinner, and you get to meet these folks.
Yeah, so
And chatter, nobody's restricting you. You can go there, hug them, kiss them. Maybe
Yes.
they can even give you their tracksuit. I didn't say that, but
I'm okay. I'm okay with even this thing going up to $70 or even $100 next year because, I mean, it's a very expensive event to do. So, Wahome, asante sana. We can't thank you more. And then Steven JJ anasema Alibadawi unakumbuka notes landing hapo Nairobi West. Watu wanaturudisha mbali sana. But anyway, that's a story for another day. I can see Lily Richards is in the building. Shout out to was it Kwitu or Gwitu? I think they were all in the building. There's a Kwitu and there's a Gwitu. They were all in the building, and we really, give the women also credit because they spread the word,
and they're volunteers too,
Yeah.
for the food. Remember,
Yes.
we when we helped with the food, you're like, oh wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of women volunteers and women participating in the event, so that's big up, kudos. And then Rasvika anasema mlikuwa Worcester wapi, wacha tutaongea baadaye. And then Ruth anasema next time it should be a minimum of $100. I totally agree with Ruth. Wanjeri, you were saying something.
I was going to say, actually, I think we have a bad habit for people who've done that event and who know the location, and there's food, there's drinks, there's tea. For you to pay $50, you should actually be embarrassed that it's that low. But I don't know why we feel like we should pay a fair wage to other Kenyans. I still never get that habit. If that event was done by John Hancock, let's say, and they said you'll get a chance to meet these people and take a picture, and they charge $150,
It would be $150.
Alafu unajua pia kitu ingine wenye watu wanasiu the water, kulikuwa na maji ya maana huko mpaka kuna jamali ya sparkling water ikaisha bubbles.
I know.
Mika, they didn't know. They didn't know the difference between sparkling water and regular water. How are they to know?
But I think that speaks to the quality, right? It speaks to the
blue
of the food and the quality of the decor in the room. That's what I'm saying, like the flowers, right? There was flowers in every desk. I mean, every table. Like that, those things cost money.
And they were real flowers, by the way.
They were real flowers.
Yeah, they were not zile plastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, that was good. I want to remind all the listeners who are tuned in that you tuned into the OneMic Show, and I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. We are here with the most indefatigable Bostonian, Miss Wanjeri. You're indefatigable, man. Very hard to pronounce, ata with our Nairobi West accents. She does not like using microwaves and GPSs, but she's here talking about Dinner with Champions, the event that was there prior to Boston Marathon. Our lines are open. Number to call, 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Feel free to call in. And later on in the show, as we're getting to wrap up, we'll talk about government involvement in Kenyan events. Does it help or does it hurt? There was no government involvement in this one. There was no government sponsorship. People went deep into their pockets. But before that, Omosh, Uno, and Mika, we drove an hour away and went to Worcester. Because I think hapa Rasvika nataka kujua story ya Worcester.
Worcester?
For Worcester or whatever you want to call it. I think in the Bay Area you guys call it Worcester. In Nairobi West we call it Worcester. But what were your impressions
of Worcester?
Of Worcester? Despite the fact that we went when it was dark.
This time around or the last time around?
No, this time around.
Okay.
That's where we met someone who we suspected was Kenyan Jui. It was in Worcester.
Oh.
Yes, it was in Worcester. We met someone who suspected was Kenyan Jui. But anyway, we'll talk about that. But what were your impressions of Worcester?
Boston has old towns. Everything is old, right? So it's it's old. I can see somebody frowning, but anyway, Boston has the towns. It's old.
Yeah.
Though we got there at night. I was glad that there was actually I am assuming it's a Kenyan joint because the DJ was the patrons were Kenyans.
Yeah.
I don't know if the DJ was Kenyan. I doubt that DJ was Kenyan.
Why are you doubting the DJ was Kenyan?
You're bamba clad man, yacht.
It's not even what he was saying. It's the way he was playing.
Mixing the music.
But the mix was not mixing.
It wasn't mixing.
No, it was not mixing. So that's part of the reason why I doubted. But I was not impressed. I was not impressed by the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it was a dead night, and I guess maybe because the next day was a public holiday and it was Sunday, so maybe folks were laying low, or they may have had a long day on Sunday and just
folks were planning to go for a marathon. Maybe
it's possible, but you see the way that marathon works out is if you know your timings, you can kesha. Whoa, now you go as you go. Because remember, the marathon starts early and ends
very early in the morning.
It ended by, 11? 10:30?
No, the marathon keeps going because people still keep finishing,
Correct.
But the elite runners...
the elite runners, the
elite
fast one
runners,
came out.
By 11, I think they were done, right?
By 11, yeah.
10?
Yeah, by 11.
I can't remember the
11-ish.
exact time, but by 11
Because remember, we were checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember there are some guys who is it the bike guys who go overnight?
No, the what do you call them? The ones who are on wheelchairs.
No, they start earlier.
Yeah.
But the bike guys, remember when we used to go to Worcester, to our boys' crib, we would see them riding.
Yeah, I mean, but those bike guys, I don't know whether they are part of the marathon or whether there's something.
Maybe
else
Wanjeri can tell us, the bike guys, because I thought that the bike guys did theirs earlier or something.
Unajua Omoish,
Yeah.
ile itu athletics.
Okay, sorry.
Ile ingine itu cycling.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's all one. I wish you came with us to that event. Then you would not be telling us about
Yes,
that.
that's what
That was something different. That's what I'm comparing something different. It's
Sawa,
yes,
sawa.
but your marathon. Hakuna pali marathon. The only wheeled things that are allowed in marathon ni wheelchairs.
But let's get back to Worcester. And hapa Rasvika anasema must be Beth's. I don't know, was that the name of the place?
Yeah, huko ndo tulienda huko.
Yes, ilikuwa bets, and bets was not betting.
But then,
Period.
Omosh, do you
But
think...
there were sponsors.
But
But then no, we need to understand.
Yes.
Hiyo ilikuwa Sunday na tulienda locally.
And that's why I said what I said at the end, right? I said that
but
it
I
probably
think-
was Sunday and holiday and all of that.
But I think Omosh is also judging by DMV standards, not to praise DMV, but DMV, like even the locals on even on a random
DMV
Friday or a random day, there's action, there's serious action going on. So I think if you're judging by DMV standards, you may see things different.
Maybe I would even venture to say my standards. Forget about DMV standards, because there are days, there are dead days.
Yeah,
there are days that are dead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it was it looked like it was. I expected more because it was a holiday the next day.
But I honestly think what would do well, for this weekend on a Sunday is a day party. Because remember, the dinner is in the evening, and then people go out. People went out to Lowell, and then the following day, let people rest, and then have a day party that starts around maybe 2 p.m.
I'd do 3, 4.
Yeah, or maybe 3 or whatever time, and let it go into into the night, mpaka maybe 10, 11ish. Then people can go relax and wake up early for the marathon. And I think going forward,
because you have to make your way downtown.
And I think
wherever you live.
Going forward, this is where people can get into constructive and meaningful partnerships, not doing a side event. Mika,
unasema watu wa side waende watu wafungwe day party wakuli huko.
No,
but today, okay. So when you say what was side,
no, if they wanna do an event, there's a Wilson amefanya dinner, and they can do a day party if nobody else has done it, right?
No. This is where I'm talking about constructive partnerships. And we should be genuine. We should be honest with each other. Like, if let's say, for example, you're a DJ, you're a promoter, we can sell this as one package, because what appeals people in these Kenyan reunions is when there's a proper package, not people doing randomly stuff. So we can market it together. Yes, we will have a dinner here, and then we're gonna have an event after the dinner that's gonna be here, and then on Sunday, you can have different things. I know Boston has a group of golfers, and this is where I'm talking about constructive partnerships, where we have events that are not interfering with each other, and that have buy-in. People who are doing these events also need to understand that that main event, the dinner with champions, is costing money. So you're not just coming in to make money, but you're also coming in to also contribute towards footing the cost of this dinner. And that's why I talk about constructive partnerships, not people doing things on the side. And you see, the problem is that right now, when the event had been dead, like everyone pretending, oh, I'm not interested. But then the moment, like when this thing picks up, you'll start seeing the vultures, like lurking on the sides and waiting, for people to start going there to take advantage of confusion and get people to go here and go there. This is where I talk about, like constructive partnership. Wanjeri.
I think that's a very fair point. And we have to, we can create other events around the main event with the understanding that the main event is the dinner with champions, right? But then we don't have events that will interfere with the main show. I think the idea of golf is a great one. There's a lot of people who play golf. And actually Safari Boston, the guy who holds Safari Boston was in the audience. So like that is something they can actually take on, like have a golf event, and then have people go for the show. My only concern is we are very terrible timekeepers as Kenyans. So if you notice at the event, all the non-Kenyans were on time, right? And the Kenyans, and that is why they were looking for seats, because by the official start time, even at around 5:30, it is only the majority of the audience was non-Kenyans. The Kenyans came when the event had started, and that's when they were scrambling to find seats and all that. So then if you have another event prior to this dinner, I can guarantee it will be more chaotic, because we are horrible at timekeepers. We are horrible at timekeeping. So I think that is something we would have to be very conscious of, that if there's another event that is happening, whether golf is an all-day event or whatever the event ends up being, that it does not interfere with that main event, because then it beats the purpose, right? But on the other hand, as long as people have paid their money, then nobody's going at a loss. But I don't think that's not the intention. I think the intention is to make the dinner the successful event, and everything else builds around it.
Yeah, the golf can happen on Sunday. I mean, because Monday is the holiday. So, and then you can still do golf and do the day party and go for the marathon on Monday. I mean, it just depends on
Saturday kwa sababu watu wa golf kwa watu specific. Unajua
correct. You're right. Golf will be over by what, 1?
And I think Saturday is a good day for the golf before the event.
Right. Yeah, but golf can end by 1 also. Yeah. So it all depends.
Yeah, and this is where we talk about constructive partnerships. Pablo says we Kenyans are our own competitors. Partnerships are pipe dream and useless small competitions.
I beg to differ.
Yeah,
I beg to differ. I think that what's happened, the audience, the entertainment scene has changed. The audience it's the same. Let's put it this way: it's the same 15 people who are your audience. You have to figure out how you're gonna split these 15 people. So you can't have 88 events for 15 chaps. That's just the bottom line of it.
Yeah.
And when I say 15, those are the ones who are going to come out, not the potentials of the ones who used to come out. Yeah. It's only the same 15 folks who are going to come out. So you have to figure out how you're going to maximize on this same 15 people who are going to come out. And, like part of it is, like engaging folks, bringing their families, the kids and all of that, because this is also cultural. Yeah. So for the kids who may not even realize that their whole Kenyan heritage and the marathon and all of that, this is actually a really good event for them to come to and actually see these guys live up front. Take a picture with this guy. 3 years down the road, this guy could be the guy who's breaking the record.
Yeah, and also, and I also think
a picture with it.
Another important aspect that we can use in this event, I saw Edna Kiplagat's children who are there, who are student athletes.
Yes.
I think this is a great opportunity for parents who have student athletes to bring them and show where their background comes from, where the athletic prowess, the roots of the athletic prowess, that we have world champions. So, and I think this is athletes in any sports, track and field, whether it's soccer, whether it's basketball. I think this is a very good event to start bringing your children early so they can go out there and tell the other colleagues who they play with that actually I met world champions, like from my country. I think that would be a very big deal. Now, Kenyan Jui says, Ali, let the free market reign. You can cherry pick when to embrace capitalism. Hakuna vultures. I think Kenyan Jui might have been one of the organizers of those side events. Because, and here's another thing that Kenyan Jui is saying, as long as there is no deception or misrepresentation, it's a free country. Let those who want to side hustle do their thing. If Wahome has a better product, then he should come out on top. So this is the same thing, you know, like the vultures who do events on the side, they always feel like, oh, this is, may I had planned my event on this day. It is just coincidence that Wahome also had an event on the same day. Let's see, but we know the truth. We know that that's not the truth, because the vultures were given 9 years. What did they do? Nothing.
But see, vultures just they eat from carcasses.
Absolutely nothing.
Rest my case.
No, they were given 9 years.
Yani, they've even got names.
They were given 9 years and they did absolutely nothing. So, you know, let's just be very fair. They were given, and let's even take away the 3-4 years of COVID. For those 5 years, the vultures did nothing. So here's another debate that's happening in a different space. People are trying to revive Las Vegas, and to me it's a very interesting experiment. I want to see it because this experiment will determine my hypothesis says that people used to go to Vegas because of rugby. It was correlated, the crowds were correlated to our rugby team being there. It wasn't a causation relationship, and now I'm getting into economics and analytics language. It was correlated. It wasn't.
Say that slowly, so at one
So meaning people went there because of rugby, or rather people did not go there because it was Las Vegas. People went there because of rugby, not because it was Las Vegas.
Got it.
Yes. So now I'd like to see this experiment.
So that one is called a cosa what?
So correlation is where something happens because something else has happened. You know,
look how we got lost because somebody could not
like
GPS.
Let me give
Wanjeri, please.
Let me give a better examples. Let's say like your sales company, you received 20 calls and it resulted in $100,000 in sales. So there's a correlation to how many calls you received to the number of sales you'll make. But a causation relationship is whereby a supermarket has sold a lot of notepads because kids are opening school, but at the same time it's fall and leaves are falling. So those leaves falling, there's an association with those more notepads being bought, but the notepads are not being bought because the leaves are falling.
Got it.
So that's that's not a correlated relationship.
No,
many.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people, in my thinking, people used to go to Vegas because of rugby and not because it's Vegas. But now I want to see this event that will be done. I think it's next year.
It's because it's Vegas? Is that why people are doing it?
So it's because there's no rugby in Vegas. Because there's no rugby in Vegas. So to me, it's an experiment. And you know, it's, if I'm wrong, you know, like I'll admit I'm wrong, but I really want to see it. So
shall you be there?
It's the same thing.
No,
shall you be there?
He'll be eating crow.
Okay.
Well, you know, like next year is too far. You know, you ask me where I'll be
in
next
December.
week.
In December.
Ask me where I'll be next week. I don't even know where I'll be next week. So you're talking about next year.
So
that is way too far. You know, me, I make plans in phases of 3 days.
Sure.
So again, you know, like
you can't travel with.
So again,
Wanjeri.
the people who wanna do side events, if they had done these events when this dinner with champions was out and they were successful, then I would say maybe it's because they know how to do events. But now that dinner with champions is back, then they bring the event back. It will definitely be because they're trying to vulture the crowd and confuse the crowd that has come for them.
And the ref waves play on.
So this is a vulture. This is not a causation, it's a vulture.
Yeah. So,
hyena nation.
Yeah. So that's something that we need to be careful about. And then Pablo says is telling you, Omosh, that my point was failure to unite and collaborate is our downfall. If we teamed up, then we can put together great events.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Not compete by settling, contesting events.
That's what, that's what we're saying.
I think we were saying the same thing, not Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, like we're gonna move on from that aspect as we're coming close to wrap up. Wanjeri, there was a Tembea Kenya crew at the event. Yeah. So
Is it Tembea or tourism?
Tembea Kenya. So maybe Wanjeri, talk to us about like they came and they had like a talk and everything. So tell us about the Tembea Kenya crew and what your thoughts were about Tembea Kenya.
So my initial thought was very visceral. I think just like you guys, I didn't understand why they were there. And we thought that they actually are based in the US. So I actually did talk to that lady, I forget her name, and I asked her what is her role, why is she at the event. I felt like I was grilling her, but she was kind enough to explain what she was there to do. So she said she was there from Brand Kenya, Magical Kenya, whatever they call themselves, and the intention was to actually, so there was a marathon expo on Sunday, I believe, which I was not aware. So there was a marathon expo on Sunday, and Kenya was showcasing itself. And so she said her whole purpose was they were coming to actually target people who run for leisure, people who run for fun. And she actually said they actually have the number that America, I think Japan, and I forget which other country, have the highest numbers of people who just run for fun, right? And they take it seriously. So their aim is to actually target those kind of people and encourage them to come to Kenya and train in Iten, or like go for a run with other Kenyans in Iten or any other part of Kenya. And I remember challenging her that, do you have the hotel capacity? Because if you promote this, then you need to make sure you have the hotel capacity in that area. But she made it clear that actually the intention is for those people to come for only like 2 or 3 days in like Iten or around that area, run a marathon, and then go on to Masai Mara, go on safari. So they're trying to package the athletes together with I guess the national parks, which takes us full circle to where we started with how does the government promote our athletes. So it looks like now they want to place them at the same level as national parks, which is okay, but I think they need to do a better job. I think all of us were in the audience cringed. You remember she used the word terrorism, right? Like Kenyans, like our our Kenyan runners will terrorize you. And I almost wanted to tell her not to use that word again when she speaks in front of people, but
Especially in Boston.
Right.
Especially in Boston,
right? Yeah. It was the wrong choice of words, but I think it goes to show how at times our people, we don't think through what we are trying to say, because that is a very strong word to use in an audience, and say that we're going to terrorize you. I don't think people will take that word lightly, but I think her intention was good, or at least whatever they're trying to do. I think the question is, will they actually follow through? Those people just here to earn their per diem money. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay, Mike, what was your perception or your view of the Tembea Kenya presence in the event?
First, I was surprised and shocked when I heard that they were there. And then they have a North American chapter. Or is it a North American? What was it?
That's what they said.
North American, whatever. And even
so she said, so sorry to cut you short. So yes. She said they're actually based in Kenya, but I think they were trying, because she made it very clear they don't have an office here. They are trying to work with the embassy, right? But I don't know what she was trying to say, that they have a North American chapter, but I think she meant in the sense that they're trying to target the athletes in North America because it has the highest numbers of leisure runners, basically.
Again,
maybe they were just trying to target to get a presence in North America.
Again,
with the embassy.
And these are the things that if you really want to do, okay, moving forward, I don't know about prior or previous situations, but moving forward, wouldn't it be nice if they team up with Wahome, and you can say, let's collaborate. We can fund, we can organize, we can get the word out.
So maybe Wahome needs to tell us because I also was surprised to see them there.
And, because here's another thing. If they're really trying to do that, then you would be hearing of them, let's say, in Oregon. Mm-hmm. Like, when guys were huko, when Omanyala, the Kenyan team was in Oregon last year.
Yeah. If they're paying for these expos,
they're paying for,
like the Marathon Expo.
Thank you.
Here is someone, like in my day job, Esther, we have day jobs. This is not what we do all the time. In my day job, I get to travel quite a bit, so sometimes mukinisikia niko Las Vegas ama San Francisco. I'm not a leisure traveler like Wanjeri. Me, mi wanangojea za kampuni.
And by the way, Wanjeri is an accomplished scientist. Mujue hivyo, but
yes, an accomplished scientist. Ruth was reminding us to tell people there.
Oh, so she's not just a litmus paper that lights things and the test tube ninis.
But these expos, like I can imagine a marathon expo, where it has people attending from all over the world. We have, we attend expos for my company that are sometimes just domestic within the US, and the monies that we pay to get a booth, to do certain small things within the expo, like to go make a talk about the product that you're having, to have just your banner, like shown somewhere, or to have, it is very expensive. There's some events that cost up to 50,000, some cost even up to 100,000, plus the cost of you taking your employees there. So if these guys if they're paying for these expos they're going, they need to be sponsoring these events. Like you
why
want
not?
To take
Collabo, yes.
Yeah, you want to take advantage of a space where Kenyans have organized, paid out of pocket to come together. How about you sponsor the whole event? Give us $50,000 or whatever amount of money, $80,000 or $100,000 or whatever amount it costs to hold such an event. Sponsor it and come and advertise your way to death. Now, here's another problem I have with always tying everything to animals. I love me some animals, but that's not the only thing that Kenya has to offer. We cannot be tying everything to animals. Beach, animals. Athletics, animals. Sijui, like you want to advertise Nairobi Life. Animals. Not everybody wants to see animals. There are some people who are just avid runners. They're not interested, like in seeing animals. They're okay with seeing them on National Geographic.
Because even with her saying, like with what she told Wanjeri, which is sometimes it's not even seeing beyond your nose, and some things are not supposed to be uttered. Some things are just supposed to stay in the brain. Mm-hmm. We don't want those guys to. Because simply put, you come, what is your capacity? Because what if those guys don't want to go for safaris? What if they have already done that? All they want now is just to chill and hang out.
Yes, absolutely.
Either way, you will still at some point probably have to provide accommodation.
Yeah,
so what is your capacity?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe from there they want to tour the town, maybe they want to take a road trip, maybe they want to drive up, or within that 10, maybe circular. Why are you trying to limit them and just direct them to animals? They probably have seen enough animals on Discovery Channel, and they've already done enough to us probably for the duration of time that they have been visiting Kenya.
I
don't
think,
limit them to that.
Yeah, I think we, like these major marathons that we always win is a very big missed opportunity for Kenya.
Did you see a Tembea Kenya flag signage somewhere in the even at the finish line? What would it take? Or even, for example, when these guys are coming in, you have Chebet coming in at third, being made by Tembea Kenya, Nava, Tembea Kenya, whatever, signage, whatever it is, or even the ladies, because we had a 1, 2, 3.
We had a 1, 2, 3. These are big missed opportunities whereby they were telling us at the event, they want every Kenyan out here to bring at least 1 or 2 people. But here's a problem. Whenever you guys are doing your marketing, you're working with non-Kenyans. You're paying expos. Like I remember even when Kenya Airways was first coming to the US,
to New York, yes.
Yeah, to New York, those events, they were working with American firms, and who's the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to traveling to Kenya? It is the Kenyans themselves. We are the ones who travel there every year. But, like for some reason, when they come here, they feel like they don't need us, but they come telling us.
You don't spend enough money.
Yeah, they come telling us you need to bring 1 or 2 people. So I think this is a very big missed opportunity. And I think something needs to be done differently in how tourism is marketed in Kenya, because you have countries like South Africa who've nailed it. You have countries like Rwanda who are getting it. You have quite a number of African countries. I don't even want to go outside the continent.
Right.
And some of these countries, maybe South Africa is on another level, but some of these other countries that are nailing it, they don't have half or a quarter as much of what Kenya has. So to me, you know, like, this is one thing, Tembea Kenya, if you're listening, you guys gotta do better from what you're doing right now. DJ Moshfire.
You should pull up your goddamn socks.
So OneMic, it's funny you brought up the issue of the accommodation, because that's the same thing I asked her. And you know what her response was? She said those runners just need a dorm. That was actually her response.
And you know what's interesting is that
Are you serious?
And the reason why they say that is that the way that those places are set up where the tracks are, they actually have dorms. Literally.
Yes, and the Kenyan runners, they're okay
and that's
with
okay
staying
for
there.
the Kenyan run. But then even the guys who are from outside who come to train with them, since hiyo ndio accommodation iko, unajipanga.
Yeah, because guys are coming out
because your goal is to train, right?
But if you're trying to attract leisure runners,
correct,
you cannot put them in dorms.
You cannot. You need to give them some, like resort type feel and all of that, where they wake up in the morning and they met with, a guy who's stretching with them.
And then, why dorms? For leisure runners.
So she said her position was that, and I told her, but those are, so she said, like, professional runners are not looking for a lot of things. They just want a place to run. But I told her, but you're not targeting professional runners. You're targeting leisure runners. So they don't want to come and sleep in a dorm. But I think, again, it's they haven't thought through actually what they want. Because to me, when she said about what her goal was, I immediately went to accommodation. And to see them conclude that the dorms are sufficient because they only want them there for 2 or 3 days and then they go to Masai Mara, it tells you how much thought they have put into that, which is zero. Yes. I don't think they have really thought it through.
It's a per diem trip, period.
Because listen,
it checks the boxes.
Okay, fine. If let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, fine. They want to experience dorm, leisure. That's fine. You can have a dorm so that they can get a feel of what it is like for what professionals
for the runners,
do.
Yeah.
I can get that. Fine. That would be an option. Another option still would be to have them stay in hotels. Let them have the option of. Just let them have the option. Because if you're bringing in leisure guys, right? Leisure. Mister, if I don't want to sleep in the dorms, I just want to wake up in my comfort, whatever, then I do my thing, I stretch, then I do my thing, and then after that I can go sightsee, go eat some food or whatever. Let it be my prerogative.
If you build a resort, and then you package.
There you go.
You package a touring experience and you tell them, when you come to these results in the slopes of Return, whatever it is, right? In the highlands of Returns, where the champions Kenyan runners train. What you get with this is free marathon coaching with a certain academy that trains champion marathons, and you leave the name of marathon that they train. That it comes as part of the package. And also we want people to see your Wanyamas. You know what? You say there's a day tour to Mount Elgon National Park where you can see stuff, and then there's also a tour to, if you want to do a city lap, because there's shuttle transport to Eldoret town to go party and see the city vibe. And then you also can, like, but then the thing is, like, once you throw in that package of, like, you can run with us, you can train on a certain camp and be able to meet certain athletes or certain champions that come from this, like, make it a package. When I come for vacation, yes, I'm a luxury runner, I want to run, but I know if I can just get a day to just run where Kipchoge trained, talk to the coaches over there, do a tour of those camps and come back, and then you sell me the rest of the R&R. That's a complete vacation.
Mika has just given them the blueprint.
Yes, totally.
Mika has just given for free.
I would have charged them.
Yeah.
For free. Mika amepatia blueprint.
Yeah. But
that's
anyway, Yeah, we hopefully one day we are gonna get reps from Tembea Kenya to maybe get their perspective on what they're thinking, so that we also understand what they're trying to do. But now, as we wrap up, I know we had promised that we're gonna have a brief conversation on in Kenya earlier this week. We lost General Francis Ogolla through a tragic helicopter crash. We are gonna conclude with that. But before we get to that story, what are things to consider in future, Wanjeri, like for these events? Chicago has been doing this for a while. Shout out to Faith Chepkwony, who was also there in Boston supporting, and also DJ Top Don. And then I got word from Faith that New York, so Chicago is going to be in October, and then New York is going to be in November. So I think people need to start prepping now. Yeah, so people need to start preparing right now to go for these events. But back to you, Wanjeri, what do you think, maybe from your experience, what needs to be tweaked to attract more people and also to attract more sponsorship so that people stop reaching deep in their pockets? Wanjeri.
I think one of it is just an awareness. I know a few people that I spoke to were not aware of the event. They never used to know the event used to happen. And I think when it's shared on Facebook, sometimes it's just the algorithms and what you see. Because I saw it shared by a lot of people, but at the same time, you meet people who never actually saw it, right? So I think we just need to, once we know, like for me, I found out because of listening to your show, when you had Wilson on the show. So I think all of us can take the initiative to inform our friends of this event, tell them how great it is, so that they don't start complaining about being asked to pay whatever is the cover charge to get in. I think we can take that initiative. And then for me, it was actually the fact that it's actually good to volunteer for those events. And I did help with the cleanup at the end, but I felt like it would have actually been good to see the effort they have put towards the event, whether it's setting up the flowers, setting up the chairs. I think it's a good opportunity to also go and volunteer and help set up the stage, help with the cleanup and all. So that I took that as a personal challenge to make sure that if it happens again and I'm in the country, I will actually volunteer for the event. But I think creating an awareness to everybody, I honestly have nothing bad to say, because the event, I felt it was very successful. It was half Kenyan or half African, and the rest of the people were from all over the world. So if Kenyans are not careful, that event will become a non-Kenyan event, right? Because
with Kenyan athletes.
Yes, it will be Kenyan athletes coming to see non-Kenyans, and that is not the intention. But I think we just need to do a better job of letting our friends know about the event and buying tickets ahead of time. And that is the message to myself as well.
Okay. So. All right. Asante sana. There's and I use this word selectively, use of mainstream promoters. I've already started engaging a couple of them. And this should not be, unfortunately, a lot of promoters sometimes are wired towards competition. This is not a competitive event. We already have a good thing going. So promoters maybe can use their influence to get more people to know that there's actually an event that happens at this time every year. And then I also have a message to hardcore fans of athletics. We have one of them here, Shirandula Chief.
Shirandula!
Yeah. So to me, I think the hardcore fans, they need to maybe learn something from the rugby fans. The hardcore rugby fans were very loud. Even back in the days when it was only a handful of people, they used to be very loud about their rugby, and that's how rugby got to be known by so many other people. I think hardcore fans of marathons, athletics, need to come out a bit louder on a regular basis, not just during events or in private spaces. They need to come out on a regular basis so that people know that these things are happening, so that someone knows. And I think now the other marathon that's coming up, I believe it's a London Marathon. I don't know.
It's the London one.
Yeah, it's a London one. I think
before, but is it this before
weekend?
Olympics.
Is it this weekend or next weekend? Yeah, the
maybe
London Marathon
Shirandula can tell us.
Yeah,
you're listening.
And these are the last marathons. Those who want to run in the Olympics are gonna run, because those who are gonna run in the Olympics, they don't wanna do a marathon very close to the Olympics.
Actually, it's Sunday.
It's this coming Sunday.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. Bora Lounge. Bora Lounge is one of those spaces where, as a Kenyan, you can come watch live sports. I challenge Bora Lounge. Please start promoting the marathons. I know we watch a lot of rugby there. We watch a lot of soccer. We watch a lot of
NBA.
American sports.
I think they do a lot of sports.
Yeah.
So I think they can. I think if I'm not wrong, but I wasn't sure because we're in Boston.
Yes.
If they did or they were showing career, but also the time.
Well, people in Bora wake up at any time, as long as they sports. Yeah. So Bora, this is a challenge I'm giving you. Please, let's start getting excited about these marathons and let people wake up. Whatever time it is, like the London one, I think it's gonna be our time. It's gonna be very early in the morning. And people wake up very early. The people used to wake up early in the morning to watch rugby. People would wake up early in the morning to watch the World Cup when we had the World Cup soccer. So I think if this thing it keeps being promoted, now people even who don't watch it are gonna start getting excited.
And I also think maybe I don't know what you think. What about using like social media? They have WhatsApp groups, whatever. Just invite people, create those spaces.
Yes, create those spaces.
Louis is saying Kipkeino Classic is this weekend.
Kipkeino Classic is also this weekend. Omanyala is gonna be running against the Botswana guy. Let's see, Ogolla. So it's gonna be a very exciting race. And then actually here Louis was talking about Tembea Kenya. He says if Tembea Kenya need to be relevant, they should realize all activities going on with our runners out here and ensure to participate in as many as they can to attract the leisure runners they want who come to enjoy watching Kenyans triumph. In the US alone, some of us are silently helping out with 3 events for our professional athletes. Na hawa watu hatujawasikia. Tembea Kenya should begin with wenyeji on the ground tuonyeshe vichochoro za kumarket Kenya through these events. Yes, and Chief Louis, I'm going to give a lot. Chief Louis is another one other person who works. He's been working silently, like to facilitate athletes like Omanyala when they come here. Like those short distance runners need certain special facilities to be able to move around and to be able to participate in these events. These are facilities that they've had to be hustling, like for themselves. Luckily, they found people like Louis who has connections in different cities to get them to where they're supposed to be. These are things that are supposed to be done for them because they've already shown us that they're good enough to be competing at this level. So these are things that they should not be hustling around for. And I think that's where Louis is coming from. And then, of course, not to forget, London Marathon is on Sunday. So to me, hardcore fans, Kina Louis, we need to get out a bit more, and regularly be talking about these events like the London Marathon on Sunday. This will allow us to entrench this event. And then we also need to have, like when we're organizing these events in future, I believe we also need to have, like especially the people who are going to be speaking on the Kenyan side, there needs to be some informed people on issues, like athletics. There was something that Wanjeri was commenting on. I don't know whether she wants to briefly talk about it or if we're going to skip that part.
No, let her talk about it.
That's okay. Wanjeri, there was something that you had mentioned.
Wusa, prepare yourself.
Yeah. And this is just on, this is just on a light note. I mean, this event had not been there for 9 years, but now to improve it, Wanjeri.
Yeah, so I think there's the one where Larry, who is the voice of the Boston Marathon, he asked if there's a question he asked that we should have known about the Kenyans in relation to the Boston Marathon, and we didn't know, and he gave us the answer. But I think to me, the embarrassing one was our own MC asking who was the first Kenyan to win a marathon, and he didn't actually know the answer himself. He had to Google. Right? So it's like if you're the MC, at least make an effort to know a few things, like for me, I know Jeffrey Mutai has the best record, and I know Cosmas Ndeti was one of the first people to do it. He was the first Kenyan to do a 3-peat, right, at the Boston Marathon. But I think if you're going to have an MC, at least it's good to have those kind of have some basic, you don't have to know the whole history of the marathon, but I think it's good to know some of the basic things about the Boston Marathon or whatever marathon, where it's Chicago, like what Kenyan was the first to run or win the London Marathon or the Chicago Marathon or whatever, or the first Kenyan woman. Kenyans in general have a lot of records actually at Chicago Marathon if you check in New York, right? So I think it would be good to make sure we are aware of those things. There was actually a raffle at the event, but I don't know what it was about. But I think it would be actually something like going forward, we would use that raffle as a way to actually ask questions and put their secret answers. And even a prize, right? So maybe something to think of for like the future. And I think that can create the excitement of wanting to know if you know you're going to win something, no matter how small it is.
Okay.
Now, pertaining to that,
Yeah.
let me read a comment.
Sure.
I mean, a review that was sent to me.
Yeah.
If the same MC will be used next time, encourage them to value the mic and use it appropriately. There's a difference between yelling and emceeing in an engaging way.
Now, emceeing is not an easy job.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
The guy just loved his voice.
Hi.
Yeah.
And Larry did say the same thing,
Yeah,
right? So when
OneMic.
somebody else can actually notice, I think it's not a good look.
And in his defense, this was an event that had not been done in 9 years. So I think we also need to be conscious of that. So I think we can only improve going here. And I think going forward, it's something that, especially, like when you're emceeing such an event, it's important, even if you're not necessarily very well versed with the marathons, to just maybe do some quick homework, like have some interesting trivia. And especially when you're doing trivia, you should try to do trivias that are not easily Googleable. Like you cannot just go to Google and find the answer. So I think that would make the event a bit more interesting.
Okay, and also, because also I think also the window of opportunity,
Yeah.
with which we had to, from when we officially started,
Yeah.
to when it ended.
Yeah.
I'm sure that at some point in time they had sat down and they had a program.
Yeah.
And they knew how they were going to run, and probably had allotted time for each particular whatever.
Yeah.
And I think, like Omosh likes to say, you have to adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're adjusting accordingly, meaning that, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. So there's certain things that will have to be removed.
Yeah.
That is part of you being an MC, because you look at the program, you look at the time, you look at what you need accomplished,
Yeah.
and then you adjust accordingly. If there's no time, because there's certain things, could have been done, like now, for example, the raffle, because it looked like the raffle was harakishwad.
Yeah.
Right? But then also, for me, I think there was a constraint in time. And that is why Wanjeri was talking about arriving on time. Because when you arrive on time, you start early, then you have time, because everything had to be rushed. Like even the food had to be rushed. When Larry was talking, people were busy chatting and whatever, because they are eating, they're serving food or whatever, which means that the delay in arrival delayed the start, which means now it interferes with what the program and how the program was intended to run.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the things that, again, and people have commented, it is really a tussle trying to deal with Kenyans and run a program when you have a tight schedule and you have to do certain things. So some things you're going to rush, and some things you just have to cut off.
Yeah, remember.
So it's really a toss up. Because sometimes Kenyans, we don't help ourselves.
Remember, we ran the program, like when Baba came here for his event.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an easy thing.
No, it wasn't.
I was controlling, like the people who are going to the mic. Then, like some random people would just come, show up, and I don't know where these people even know who's the one running the program. Random people would come and show up, and they would tell me that they want to speak, or they would give me a name and tell me that, this guy has to speak. Sijui, the Baba's grandfather and his grandfather used to play together. It was such a mess, like people people were there like hustling me, wananifuata mpaka nikienda choni hivi, you find that there's someone there waiting for you. Are you gonna give me a slot to speak? Now,
you should have taken the brown envelopes.
Yeah. Now, there's a whole problem. These people did not even have brown envelopes. You know, like they were just coming there.
Or in this case, green envelopes.
Yeah. Get it? Yeah. So this I can understand. You know, like it's not. You know, like it's totally not an easy thing.
It's not. You know,
It's not an easy thing
and kudos to Kibathi for emceeing, but those are the challenges when you have a short period of time.
Yeah.
Because you have to run through. Because everything, because you look at it, he wants to have a good program, but you're running through the program because there's no time. Because guys, most of the time has been eaten by people coming in late, and I think we have to be out there by between 9 and 10. I think by 10.
Yeah, we had to be out of there.
Yeah, we had to be out of there. So
place,
that's another thing. And I think even Wanjeri mentioned when we were there, I think, and we all said, I think at some point in time, we just have to program ourselves just to start.
Okay. Yes. Start. Even if it's half the crowd, even if it's 25%.
If it's 25%.
If people start seeing that, they will know the next time.
That is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Wanjeri, you know, quickly before we go to this topic of the tragedy that happened in Kenya, what are just some of the last words you have regarding the event, the marathon, and overall? Last words before we get to this story and then conclude the show. Wanjeri.
Great event, great effort by everybody involved. You know, Wilson, his wife, all the committee members, the volunteers, and of course our athletes for doing us proud. So overall, great event, great turnout, and I look forward to much bigger and better events going forward, even in other cities when we have athletes coming around.
And thank you so much for the free breakfast. We forgot to mention that.
That breakfast was the bomb.
Yes, thank you so much for the free breakfast.
What was it? The restaurant?
I mean, like the most uncreative name ever for a restaurant. A restaurant that's called The Restaurant.
That guy was very creative.
Take that personal. Wanjeri, take that personal.
I mean, the restaurant.
I am offended.
The food was amazing. The food was amazing.
It is their name.
Yeah.
Okay, the food was, but I was glad to host you guys and obviously get to meet you. So karibu next time.
Okay.
And let them know that this was the first time meeting.
Yeah, that's yes.
Yeah, we had never met.
You had never met.
We've known Wanjeri for so many years on social media and up on the OneMic Show. This was our first time meeting physically. You know, when Wanjeri said that, I had not even registered that this was gonna be the first time that we are actually physically meeting with each other.
Yes.
So that, to me, that was so spectacular, which goes to show you the power of social media and the power of some of these platforms that we have, that people know each other. We know, like Siko, but we know people who've hooked up based on meeting up kwa comments. Later on, wakaenda wakakutana huko kando. For business, hooked up for business. I know what y'all were thinking, but we meant hooked up for business.
Sindio.
Yeah,
we know that business.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we were like we were meeting for the very first time. Because when Wanjeri mentioned it, that's when it registered to me, because when we had talked, like, it hadn't registered me that we hadn't actually met physically.
And remember, even like Husky, I had never met Husky.
Yeah, we hadn't met him. Yeah.
Yes. No, Husky, I've been in Boston before.
But I'd never met him, but I'd met him through COVID.
Yeah.
Samrak, I'd never met Samrak.
Or Samrak,
I'd never met a guy.
Yeah.
So it was.
But they knew us. They were like, hey.
Well, they knew early. It's too early.
No. Samrak, labda mesahau. Samrak was with us. The other Boston Marathon where Baba attended.
Oh, the last one. That was 15.
That was before the bombing. That was before the bombing.
One before the bombing.
I not officially met him.
No, but you were there.
I was there, but we never met. That's the thing.
Maybe you don't remember.
I don't.
Okay.
But officially meeting the guy like, hey, Samrak, Muturi, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it was a very good networking event.
Now let me read some of these reviews as before we carry. So this one says so the question asked was what did you like most, seeing the athletes. The person says seeing the athletes, the sense of community, What would you say was missed by those who did not attend? Nyi watu not attending, msikize. Same as the above, seeing the athletes and the feeling of the sense of community. Anything else you feel worth discussing? And that was where that part of the MC comes about. This other one said, this is pertaining to the food. It's good to whatever. The food serving was a bit messy. Should not have been in the same room. It should have been in another room.
Huh?
But
that is a review, a personal.
No, that's okay. But then also understand that space for a lot of people who don't understand the city. I mean, I've been to Boston a couple of times, but I can tell you that spot is prime of prime.
Okay.
When you talk about prime of prime, so you cannot just get random spaces, extra rooms. Like any extra room that you book,
you're going to pay for it.
You'll pay for it. It will cost you more.
At the yin yang.
Yeah. So I think the group that was working this event, considering the short time that there was to prepare for it, they did the best that they could.
No, they did, absolutely. And don't get me wrong. I believe that whatever was done, again, like you said, it took 9 years.
Yeah.
None of those vultures, aka hyenas, stepped in to try and do something.
Gizani, mitini.
Kama kukurucha.
Yeah.
Udawasha taa out in jagoni godhie. So again, it's the first time after 9 years. Even Wilson said, even Genie said, I wish I can look for the song we play as we wind up. Said that it's the first time after 9 years. Of course, there are kinks, they can be ironed out, but it's already a level and a bar is set that is high that it can only get better. Yeah.
Okay. Sawa. And that's it for the Boston Marathon. So real quick before we go away, earlier this week, tragedy in Kenya. General Francis Ogolla passed away in a tragic accident, and I think there was about 10 people who lost their lives in that.
Yes, a total of 10,
including him. Yes.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, that's Kenya's top military chief, the first of the people, the first group has already been buried. There was a general, a Brigadier Said, who's a Muslim, and of course we don't keep our bodies for long. He was buried earlier on today. But then, this has happened. It's the first time Kenya is losing a military chief while
on duty, in duty, and active.
While in office. Yeah.
While in office.
Because the previous military chiefs, General Tonje, General Mahmoud Mohammed, and I can't remember the other one. I think it was
Mulinge.
No, Mulinge is Mulinge still around? I think
no. He's the only one who's dead.
Okay.
Yeah,
but active duty.
But most even former military chiefs, they're still alive. So here's an interesting thing. In Kenya, when things happen, of course none of us knows it was an accident. That's what's been widely reported. That's what's known so far. But there's something that happens whenever such events happen in Kenya. People get divided, and there's always suspicion. And I'm talking about this because this is now what's happening out.
Right.
On the ground. Speculation, suspicion. Maybe let me start with you, Omosh Fire. Why is it that Kenyans, maybe they can't just kubali that maybe this was just an accident. It was just an accident. There was something wrong with the chopper, and it was just an accident. Why do you think there's always speculation that comes when such things happen? Because remember also the same thing happened when former Vice President George Saitoti also died in a chopper crash at Ngong Hills. Same thing happened. Why do you think this always happens, DJ Omosh?
I think the problem is that we have, and this is just generally, we have trust factor issues, period. So, and then for one, we don't trust the government. And more so because of what they do. Their actions speak louder than the words. So that their track record is not very good. And then to believe, if one were to just say, okay, let me just put on the hat that says, as you said, it's the first time that we have an active sitting head of the military or chief of defense forces pass on while, again, in duty or while on duty. It's very surreal for us. And so there's always conspiracy theories. But then in this particular case, because of at the point in time when the guy was getting appointed, the words that were uttered by the president / commander-in-chief, was, hey, I appointed this guy, but he tried to overturn, my election results.
Yeah.
And and according to Chebukati, he was part of, because as the sitting, at that point, he was the vice chief of the defense forces, I think it is, right? And he was also a part of the National Security Council, which has various people. You have folks who are in, like, say, the Minister of Interior, Minister of State, Sijui Nini. There's a couple of military heads who are in there, and he was part of that. And they actually went to meet Chebukati because of security, or at least that's what they say, that they went to meet him because of security issues in relation to the results, and the results not being announced, and the country kind of like being tense and things like that, and to find out how things were, or find out what's going on, so that I guess they can plan also, again, internal security, or internally as the National Security Council. But Chebukati claims that he was being pressured to
overturn the results. Okay.
Right? So it's a he say, she say situation. But they say that if that were the case, why would they have gone in with certain folks, or but it almost looked like he was the one who was being pointed at, and that's why subsequently the comment that was made by the current president in terms of when he was appointed was that, hey, if I that this, even though this guy wanted to overturn the results, or overturn my my presidency, quote unquote, or for it not to be announced, I still appointed him. But again, now going back to the actual accident and things happening, we've had a lot of military related accidents with helicopters. Whether one would say they are foul play, the helicopters are bad, or is it the fact that we don't have correct maintenance being done on these particular choppers, especially the military ones? And one can, one hand of it, you'd say, okay, if you go back and you look at track records, say like the current president never ever took those military helicopters until now as president, because I guess you'd call it was Kenya 1 or whatever you want to call it, is an Air Force chopper. But other than that, prior to that, he always opted, even as the vice president, he always opted and he did not fly the KDF choppers. If you guys never knew.
Who?
Ruto.
Okay.
He didn't fly KDF choppers. He started flying KDF choppers as president.
As president.
Yeah, he was not flying KDF choppers before.
Okay.
But again, and somebody may say one or the other, but the track record of that, if you're looking at things, from remove the conspiracy and you look on, track record of the KDF choppers has not been the best since I would venture to say probably from, let's say, 2016. They've had quite a number that have gone down in even with lower ranking military personnel and so on and so forth. So the question you would ask is, are these choppers being correctly maintained? Do they have the correct things to maintain them? Some folks might say that even this chopper was an old chopper, because the Hueys are choppers that were actually originally put into circulation during the Vietnam era. But what happened with these particular ones, they were refurbished by Bell choppers or helicopters or whatever, and were donated by the U.S. government to Kenya in between 2016 and 2017. I think it was a total of about 8 choppers. Of those 8 choppers, I think, did they say something like it's either maybe 4 of them are the only ones still in circulation, either 4 or 3 are in circulation. So this one here that just Gokad would have been, say number 4 or something like that. So they either those other ones have gone out or something happened to them or whatever the case may be. However, in lifespan of helicopters, the choppers fly for a long time. Just if you look at the lifetime of choppers, they actually fly for a long time. Now, Kenya has, over the years, they've diversified also how many choppers they had, because before they just used to fly CG Pumas and I think something else, and Pumas are French made or something. So they have a vast, they have Sikorsky's, they have those Hueys which are made by Bell, they have the Pumas, and they have about maybe 6 to 7 different companies that they get their choppers from. Some they've purchased, some were given to them as donations, and this particular donation was part of the Al-Shabaab
War on Terror.
Yes, War on Terror, and that's how those choppers came about. The ones that, the Hueys that we got that were refabs between 16 and 17. So again, all in all, it's very hard at this point to speculate one way versus the other. But with the track record of these guys, you also have to question, like, could it be that something, there was actual foul play as opposed to this was just a bad accident and, like, I guess to the wrong folks. Let me just put it that way.
What do you mean by the wrong folks?
When I say the wrong folks, and when I say the wrong folks, I say it not that, having an accident and people dying is for the right folks, should I say, but because there was a head of the Kenyan military who went down in a chopper.
Yeah.
And if you then now go back conspiracy theory and you start looking at even heads of state that have gone down, not necessarily in choppers, but you could also say choppers because what's his name? Garang was again in a chopper, and that chopper was a Ugandan craft that he was coming from UG after meeting with Museveni, and I think he was on his way to Nairobi.
And the president of Burundi.
Before the war. Was that?
Al Jazeera actually has done an investigative series on Garang's death, and there's a lot of suspicion on foul play.
And these choppers, it seems, for whatever reason, it seems like if somebody wants to have, they seem to be easier to manipulate, or somebody either to if you're gonna do things, it's easier to get to them and to manipulate and do certain things, whether it's to the to the engine, blah blah blah. It's so sad to just think that could be what's happened, and that is really, really sad because it wakes up a whole lot of things. Then you have to ask all the questions about all the other folks who have died. In plane crashes, choppers, it's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of them, even the ones in Northeastern, remember, I think there was an MP who was in Northeastern who had...
That was Khalif. Are you talking about back in when the Kibaki administration had just started?
I think it was, it was Kibaki's administration, So, it's a bunch of them that basically are having, all these issues, quote unquote, So I'll summarize this way. It is a sad day, a sad affair for Kenya, East Africa, and Africa, where we have actually lost a military man who was very, very well respected across the world, not just for Kenya, across the world. It's a very, very, very sad day. And I think his burial is on Sunday. Yeah, because he had told his family if
he wants to
pass away 3 days. Hakuna story.
Which I really admire.
So he had, and interestingly, I was watching, some footage from when a lot of officials, including the president, had gone to sit with the family and visit with the family. His son spoke, and his son said, "You guys need to stop having long faces. My dad," or he calls his dad General prepared us for this. Wow. So us guys tulikuwa tushajipanga. Nyinyi inaka nyinyi ndio hamkujipanga. So it's almost like as a military man, that he kind of prepped them and said, hey chaps, this
In case
anything happens, and this may happen, even you're not vitu zifanywe, pap, and that's exactly what they are doing.
And like also the daughter had a tribute on, I believe it was LinkedIn, that was being shared around a lot, and also had very good sentiments. And I think it's important for a lot of people, regardless of what age you are, to prepare for death. I think this is a very uncomfortable topic.
Correct.
But it can happen anytime. You could go from here, from listening to the show, drive home, and something happens to you. And that's the end of your story. It could happen anytime. So people need to prepare. They need to prepare their loved ones. And they need to write, wills. And wills should not just be about distributing property.
Yeah.
It should also be about, instructions of how you want to be buried, especially if you don't want a lot of money to be spent. And also, just like he said, prep your children, your family, and everyone else. And it might be, like a more comfortable death. Is never comfortable. It's never smooth, but at least mentally, people might get prepared. Pablo, he's saying, an accident like the current one of a CDF chief who is a star less than the commander-in-chief, the president, should be investigated by independent investigators, probably foreign investigators, to work with their Kenyan counterparts. I totally agree.
I agree with him. I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't know if it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
But it would be nice to allay these doubts.
That sounds nice, but I don't think it's going to happen. And part of it is, to be honest, even if something had happened at that level, where there was actually foul play, do you really want somebody from outside to come out and be the one to tell you that there was foul play?
Yeah, that will create more problems. And sometimes even when we talk about foul play, sometimes foul play does not come from the people we think. Sometimes it could be an overzealous person who thinks that this is what my commander would want. And this is just, of course, speculating. We don't know, like what happened. And hopefully, one day, they will get to the bottom of this.
It's... Yeah. This one is sad. It's
very
really
sad.
It's really sad. I wish, like, I know people who knew him, and I'm like, I wish I met the guy. I actually wish I actually met the guy. I know people who he served under, and it looks like he was a type of guy. Even like videos. Have you seen the video that they're showing when he was running with the troops?
When he was running with the troops, yes.
And training, and it seems like that's what he did. He was that kind of guy.
He was that soldier.
Yeah, he was that kind of guy. It's like, I need to be with my guys, niko entrenched na nyinyi. Maybe hata pengine wakienda kulala kwa matents, yeye ndiye analaenda kulala.
He's a leader who led from the front line.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, and for a guy like that, that's a true career soldier. And that would be also why you would see his family, make statements like that, where they're like, this guy prepared us all along during his career.
And Pablo is saying, when my dad was in the military, he prepared us every time he went out for a tour or a peacekeeping mission. Yeah, because...
Wow.
Yeah.
I was listening, every time there's an accident, airline, here, NTSB are always on it.
They're always on it.
They're doing investigations and reports come out. And you know what happened, and they investigate.
Detailed reports.
Detailed.
Yeah.
And then they will say whether it was pilot error or it was mechanical error or this what happened, whatever it is. But the reports are usually detailed.
Very detailed, yeah.
My concern, because I was wondering, and I had this being mentioned on Spice, that investigations may happen, but we'll never see the report.
No.
Ojode and Saitoti. Was there a report?
Nope.
Who else has had a fatal Kenya?
Bonaya Godana.
Was there a report?
No.
This one, will there be a report? Chances are it might be one of those classified. And as Omosh is saying, he might be right. You probably may not want to allow outside. You could, because of this, of his caliber and level and you want to get this right, but for some reason, speculations, Kenyans, we will always speculate, but sometimes it's always good to have the report. And if we were genuinely, on the right track, a report would come out, and a detailed report, and you can even say, you know what, Enyewe, it was mechanical error, it was pilot error, or it was sabotage. Is that simple?
It's very simple.
But until then, it will go like that. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, unfortunately, this case, this particular situation, by next week, we'll be talking about something else.
And you know how I don't want to say I have personal experience, but I know how easy it is to, for example, maybe compromise. Like we're talking about choppers. And this is just memory that's now coming back. Back a long time ago, like when nilikuwa huko Masaini, when I was 11 years old. I remember in Magadisoda, back when George Saitoti was the member of parliament, Kajiado North. So he would come there for political rallies. This is the first multi-party elections, 1992. In that election, this was point I was frog marched by some Masais, because that was a Kanu zone, and I was busy, showing those two fingers for Matiba. But that's a story for another day. I was frog marched home by some Masais. But I remember there was a time when George Saitoti came for a political rally. And he came using a chopper. And I was physically there, because this was a small town, like where everything is. Chopper ikikuja, watu wote wanakimbia huko pali chopper ina land. So I was there around the chopper when they were refueling it, because there was a soccer pitch hapo karibu. So as kids, were just curious. So we were right there next to the chopper. As they were refueling it, as they were servicing it, we were touching the chopper. We were, and now thinking back, I'm like, this thing was open as kids, 11, 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, we were there, touching it, feeling it while, because it was in an open ground. And that's where,
you could mother than you.
For me personally, I've never been in a chopper, and that's a means that I would never want to be in one. Even zile luxury, when people are going to do those luxury things in Las Vegas, at yours, you go for a chopper ride.
The dams, yes.
Go for a chopper ride. Akuna.
Yeah, you can do a chopper ride.
No.
Around New York.
No. Those, no, thank you.
You're not boarding, Omera. You're not boarding.
Me, those things, because a chopper, it's very magical, because it's this very small vessel that can just lift up and go very high in the sky and come back down. So to me, that's very mysterious. I admire people who build such products that humans are gonna use. And I know, there's millions of flights that happen without any incident, but those things are very scary, especially those choppers at the glassy kwa hapo chini. Like you can see the ground while you're sitting huko juu. And then it's so loud, you can hear, you have to wear those headphones, because of the noise that's coming from. Yeah,
you're not boarding.
I think Ali might do a hot air balloon.
At a hot air balloon. Oh my goodness, hot air balloon. That's even worse. Hiyo kitu sabotage. Mtu anachukialia anaweza tu kwenda kuipop.
Mishale.
When it's on the way up, yeah. And then it's popped when inaenda juu.
Those Masais that are frog matching him would use a mishale on him.
Hey,
Stephen JJ says military kila kitu huwekwa chini ya maji.
Yes. Correct.
Stephen JJ says, but what about the standard newspapers reporting that there has been more use of these choppers? Of course, currently.
When he says more use, what does he mean?
Like for personal trips, whatever. See, there was a sometimes when you read the news, you don't know. A chopper came to get results, then left. Or now, for example, when the helicopter that was doing was dropping
leaflets,
not leaflets, the goodies, because of the
floods. The you're talking about the one.
Was it Wajir? Whatever. I think it was in Wajir County. So there are more choppers now through, because people have got money, quote unquote, right? And Indefatigable says, by the way, Ebu, come back and do your final, your parting shot. Wanjeri.
Washa your video, Wanjeri.
Washa. Alibadawe, if you travel in some parts of the world, you'll be shocked the planes they have. Where scary, by the way. There's a documentary, Dangerous Roads. Watch that.
The smallest plane that I've ever traveled in was one from Wilson to Zanzibar. Hiyo kitu ikigonga cloud unaisikia hivi. And then
it's like you getting it ahead.
Yeah, and then the thing that got me suspicious is when we were going to the plane, the pilot and the co-pilot, those are also the flight attendants. Wanakupatia these snacks. Hapo kwa ngazi ya ndege.
As you ingia.
Yeah,
so you don't bother us.
So me, I saw that and I was like suspicious. Alafu kiingia ndani, you
have to bend.
You can see the pilots right there.
You have to bend like this.
Yeah, okay. You have to bend and then you can see the pilots.
Kale kamlango haina protection.
Yeah.
Ya magaidi.
Hiyo flight nilisweat but nilifika.
Na wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. We've got Wanjeri back. She has stopped going to type in over there. She's back on video.
She was recording.
Yeah, she still wants to enjoy the show.
She wants to enjoy the show
while being the guest.
So imagine. Yeah. She's double dipping.
She was blogging.
That one too.
She wants to eat her githeri and still have it.
How?
With blue band. Nesha ena shamamono na kafiri. Wanjeri, parting shot.
Yes.
Research scientist, by the way. Kaende.
Great show. It was nice meeting you guys finally in person, except OneMic. And I want to remind OneMic, we first met in Nairobi. I said hi to him. He stared at me with some very bad eyes.
He was a celebrity back then.
He was a celebrity in Kenya. He was like, who are these women from the US who are trying to talk to me? So when I come back to the US, I called him. And I'm like, Yani, you... Anyway. Nothing but love. Okay?
Surely. Sawa tu. Tutaonana nyuma ya tent after the show.
But nice to meet you. Thank you for promoting the Run with Champions show. And I look forward to you guys doing greater things. And thank you for the platform of the Kamukunchi show. It's always great to listen to you guys.
Thank you, Indefatigable, the only being in somebody's githeri. And what did you call it? What did you say? The Bostonian thing, Amajigi. The title.
Yes, and one thing I forgot. Yeah. So I was gifted this thing for hosting. I want to say maybe it's because I bought lunch, brunch.
Kanyama.
Kanyama. And I've worn this chain to work all of this week. And it's been such a conversation starter. So almost tutaonana kando.
So you've done some science. So while doing some science experiments,
yes,
you've been discussing that while doing.
It was in litmus paper.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say it. Somebody just say something, and you can tell they're itching to say something. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, while mixing HCl plus NaOH and getting Kako 3. Anyway. Yes.
Thank you,
That is calcium chloride.
Is it calcium chloride or Kako 3? Is it calcium chloride or calcium carbonate?
That's why you're not a scientist. Stick to mathematics. Finance.
Wait, Kako 3. CaCO3.
Calcium carbonate.
Yeah, see, I said calcium carbonate, but you said calcium chloride. Chemistry.
I thought you said Kako. Kako is with an L, so that's
Kako, CaCO. Kako 3.
Oh. Calcium carbonate.
Hapo basi, sawa. Nimekufunza ka chemistry kidogo hapo. Nenda kaitumie kazini next week.
So, thank you, Wanjeri.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Almost fire.
Yes.
Kaende.
Thank you to Wanjeri for hosting, for coming on the show, to our regular listeners, to the new listeners, to the coming in listeners, to all our listeners. Asanteni. Thank you much. And Paule to the nation for losing a great general, a great man, and to all of us as Kenyans, this is a time for, to me, I would say we are all in mourning as a nation, and we'll get past this. hopefully we'll be given answers as to what happened so we can stop speculating and we move on, because there's a lot of things that are coming across. And also congratulations to, the Kenyans with Boston Marathon. We went there, we saw for ourselves, and we're looking forward to many, many more marathons. Like we said, New York is coming up. Chicago is coming up, and we have committed to Chicago. New York bado tuko hapa ka finje, but we've committed to Chicago already. So and we are going to be very categorical in pushing these marathons, because we can do it. We really can do it. It just takes, honestly, if we can get like 20 people at the finish line making noise as Kenyans, bas, we are in. Like Flint. In fact, chaps will be looking to say, where are those Kenyans who make noise? But anyway.
Tutakuwa nani kama SIM card.
Yes. Natoka huko mbele kama mfuko ya shati. But now, with that said, I say thank you, Munoz, to my peoples, and our to ni mtu wapi? Ongem. And as next week.
Kangemi boys.
Yes. And it's also Kangemi, literally. Ask him where.
Oh, so Kangemi boys was just a natural movement.
But he's a Kangemi guy, literally.
He's a Kangemian?
Yes.
Okay.
He upgraded. Yeah. Aliomoka.
To Kangemi boys.
AKA
Nairobi school.
Hiyo pia. Okay. Alafu, but pale karibu na bridge.
Okay.
Pale wezi tembea siku hizi.
Okay.
Ukienda. Yes. Oh, sorry.
So naambia watu umetoka West. Kumbe umetoka the other side.
Yes.
Okay.
Ama anasema tuko pale Welcome Kenya Limited.
Okay.
Now we know. Hapo ni Loresho, supposedly.
Now we know the truth.
Yes. So with that said, see you guys next week. Thank you much as usual. And back to you, Uno.
So
or is it Ali?
What can I skip?
Sorry.
So talking about next week,
yes,
we are going to be hosting the farewell interview of Big Ted. So that's an interview that you don't want to miss. I think that's going to be the last. Yes, wow. That's going to be the last interview that he's going to do.
Is that official or unofficial?
Because it could be officially unofficial.
Okay.
Or it could be unofficially official.
Wow.
Whatever way you prefer to look at it. But I think this is going to be his last interview. I know next month the president is coming. Correct. The president of Kenya on an official state visit.
Yes.
Some anonymous sources had told me that the president wanted the new ambassadors to be in place by the time it touches the ground. But that's not going to happen. Because I think on the American side, hawajakubali kufanya vitu haraka hivyo.
But there's also protocol.
There's protocol
you have to meet, and then also it's based upon the president's availability because I think the only person who hands over credentials is
the president.
No, the only guy who hands credentials to the president is the one who the Kenyan ambassador who's US based. Sorry, who's DC based, not the UN one.
Not the UN one. Yeah, UN is a different entity.
The UN one deals with the UN, and then Uyu consul, which is what is Big Ted's name. You don't hand over credentials.
No, you don't.
So credentials that and now you have to enter into the US president's schedule.
Yes.
So that you can make time or get time to hand over.
Yeah.
So you can't just show up and then you say, me, I'm the chap who was taken. No.
Yeah.
Because even Amayo didn't get to hand his credentials in for, I think it was a couple of months.
Yeah, because there was...
Before he came,
Before he came in.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Americans, I think they've tactically done that because they don't want the mess of, dealing with such a big state visit. And then you have an ambassador who doesn't even know
who's not up to
par. Who doesn't know
with
his way around.
Yeah, kuna hiyo corporate knowledge.
Yeah, and then those controversial hearings, vetting for the ambassador. Americans have been watching. There were some very embarrassing moments for a lot of those ambassadors who are being vetted.
The new chaps, yeah.
Yeah, the new chaps. There's a lot of embarrassing moments, and trust me, Americans may not be talking about it, but they are watching. They are watching and preparing for these new chaps to chew them on any negotiations they're going to be making. We know we have the US-Kenya Free Trade Agreement that's still pending. So that's something that we're gonna wait for. Now, besides that, thank you so much to Wanjeri. This was a very amazing interview. We are hoping to have her again later on. And then remember, Chicago in October, New York in November. So start planning now. Musiseme hamkuambiwa, msingoje kusimuliwa, and please, let's make this the start of new beginnings. If you know you're a vulture, please stay away, because we are watching you. Na kwa hayo machache, yote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule. Operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nimo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed. Looks like a DJ Machachari.
He's not machacharing.
He's not machacharing.
I can't move before
he's
you
not
switch.
taking us out.
I can take you guys out.
I'm concerned, but it is what it is.
Why
Why are
you concerned?
Hold on.
He's
not machacharing. Aleti habari.
He's not letting habari.
He's madhogodhanio.
Yeah, DJ mleta habari. He's not habari.
Not even that. Unakumbuka hii mambo ya GPS?
Oh my goodness.
Haya.
Ilikuwa ni town gani yo? Hudson.
Wherever you went. On top of that, unaona sasa hata is not machacharing on the machacharis.
Surely, but you didn't notice that these places are looking different, totally different from where people are originally supposed to go.
Uyu machachari?
Yeah. He wasn't machacharing even then.
My friend.
Yeah.
And he's the sober one.